Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Models Workshop. This week it's Marie and I. It's kind of late, so like everyone else is doing what sensible people do and are in bed. We, on the other hand, are burning the midnight oil because we are part of the lunatic fringe and we enjoy being up stupid late to come and chit-chat and talk about what's going on and provide entertainment for all of y'all.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, so what exciting things have been going on in your world
this week? In my world, let's see now. I drove a half-sick guy out of bed who snagged one of his kids and kind of like stuffed him in clothes on the way here to go help me get a table and chairs that I bought off of Marketplace. So now I have the table, which is actually a really awesome table, to put the 3D printers on, rather than the workbench I was thinking of. And I have my gaming chairs.
Yeah. So, dude sounds like a totally awesome bro to like come out, you know, when he wasn't feeling all that great and had been up since like 6 that morning and had only gotten like 5 hours sleep to help drag a big table around. But, you know, it's not like I know the guy.
Not like you know the guy. But the nice thing was it was taken apart before I got there, and I'll get to clean it up and touch up all the little dings that I feel like. But it's nice to have that because that was one of the last pieces I needed so I could start organizing. And then before the snow starts tonight, or is supposed to start tonight.
Yay!
I finally got my gluteus in gear and took all the bags of leftovers from the house rewire out into the big shed so I can work with them in the spring, cleaning off the insulation on the old stuff because I wanted to keep the copper.
Right.
So I could use that for hobbies and everything else, and gave, obviously the friend was you, Larry.
No.
Gave Larry a piece of good copper wire because he needed that for a little home repair. So I grabbed a 8-inch piece that was left over from a Romex cut. It's like, here, wire.
Right.
So it was kind of that thing, but I still have a miniature of yours that I need to give you. You still have the beeswax to give me.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you said
I haven't
something.
because I kind of need it.
Right.
Maybe I'll remember it next weekend. So that's kind of what was going on here. Oh, that and getting quotes to have my roof replaced.
Right.
So I got the third quote, and I need to look them over, and I'll make my decision and spend money and have a new roof put on this joint.
Yay!
Yay!
More money being spent. Yeah. So, oh man. So what have I?
So what's been going on in Larry World?
All right. So the last couple weeks, because it's been 2 weeks since we recorded, obviously. I went ahead and scheduled everything for the surgery. So we have actual hard dates of when everything is going to be happening and all of that jazz. So, you know, that's a load off of my back. I ended up going to Jungle Gyms today with Kara because she had never been. And I was, for those who don't know, Jungle Gyms is this amazing grocery store down in the Cincinnati area. There's actually 2 of them. We went to the one that's in Hamilton or near Hamilton. I forget what little actual town it is. And they had actually remodeled since the last time I was there. So I'm kind of glad I went because Marie wants to go too. And we're probably going to go next week. So there's that. But we went and they had a Cece's Pizza. And for those that don't know, I completely blanked out. Basically, it's the best freaking grocery store you'll ever see. It has tour bus parking. It gets tour buses, and it's actually worth it. It's an amazing store. It's absolutely huge. I love it. Jessica from the podcast actually was the first person who told me about it. And they're like, you live only like an hour and a half from there? Because it's when I lived in my other house. And she's like, and you've never been? I was like, no. She's like, you need to go. So I went, and yes, absolutely. But part of the reason I keep going back, I don't do my regular shopping there. But whenever you go, you can find boutique items and specialty items. Like they have Langega, which is a Scandinavian meat treat. And it's not very common. It's not ridiculously expensive. It cost me $21 for a pound and a half, which is quite a few of them. But the problem is I've even looked into making them myself. And it takes like 3 different types of smoking. It's like 6 months of processing and everything. So if you're not a business that actually deals with making sausage and salami and everything, no, absolutely not. It is a very time intensive type process. I legitimately looked because I love this so much. And I thought it would be cool to be able to work with my own formulas and everything. But they sell it there, and that's one reason. They also have a whole bunch of different types of cheese. But we ended up going, and they had a CC's, which is an all-you-can-eat pizza bar. They're very uncommon nowadays. Used to be really common. And
there's one by my old apartment.
They're actually very uncommon nowadays. Like, they're very much so dying out. They used to be one of our favorite places to go when I was in the military because it was affordable, and they're not affordable, well, air quotes, affordable anymore. They're like $9 a plate.
What?
Yeah. It's like $9 a plate. And they used to be nowhere near that. So her and I sat down, we ate there. When it's only 2 people, it's not that bad. And it was nice because they had all the favorites that we're used to. They had the white sauce pizzas. They had the buffalo pizzas. They had the apple crumble pizza on their dessert line that I absolutely love. And then, of course,
that is good.
Their breadsticks are just absolutely to die for.
Breadsticks, bowl of dipping, like Alfredo or something.
Mm-hmm.
And oh yeah.
And if they're on point that day, they're the type of place that they'll get their pepperoni at that point of being crispy, but not like too crispy. So if you go there at the right time, and anyways, we went and ate there, and then we were walking around. And there's a pet land. And my teammate, Joe, who's going to be listening to this show.
Hi, Joe.
Had bought a new puppy, and she is the sweetest thing ever, except she chews on everything. She got a hold of my losses so far is a Bluetooth headset. She chewed half the tongue off, or a good section of the tongue off of my brand new work boots. Didn't compromise them, so I just kind of was like, and eventually I'll have you show me how to do a quick stitch to seal the hole that she made.
Okay.
Then I'm missing an earbud, and I can't absolutely blame the dog, but I'm pretty sure she ate it. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure she ended up eating it. They were 2 years old, and they were about due for a new pair anyways. Battery life was starting to become crap in them, so not too fretful. And it was one of those things, I put it up where I knew she could get a hold of it, and that was on me, so I can't get mad on that. The boots, a little bit. She got a hold of one of my Coach wallets. This was before we knew that she was an absolute terror for chewing. So, anyways, she's a sweetheart, though. She really is. Her name's Penny, and I went there to go get some bitter spray, the stuff you can spray on stuff and make it taste nasty, where dogs don't want to chew it anymore, and some dog treats and toys, because we have a couple dogs at home, and I figured they would like it, and plus we have cats, so I was like, hey, we can go get some cat treats there. So we did. We actually went to the store, picked all of those items up. We did not forget, but we did have a purchase, and I'm not going to say it was an impulse buy, because that would be bad. It was an unplanned purchase, most definitely an unplanned purchase, but we walked in, and as a family, we collectively love corgis. We have always loved corgis, specifically Welsh corgis. Basically, the ones the queen likes too. Queen liked too. Same breed, red Welsh corgis, and they had one that just had the most beautiful face. I mean, Marie's seen pictures.
I've seen pictures.
And they were like, would you like to pet her? And my wife's like, yes. I'm like, oh.
That's how they suck you in. That's it.
Yeah. Well, as soon as the wife was like, yes, let's do it, I was like, oh, good Lord. So we sit down in the little booth, and we're playing with her. And I actually held her first, and she jumped up on my chest, and I'm growing a beard out, and she started gnawing on my beard, and then giving me kisses and like just chewing on my beard a little bit, and just being a total goofball, wiggle butt. And I was like, oh, bad. This is real bad. And then the wife got a hold of her, and she's just like, oh, she's so adorable. She's so cute. She's so squirmy. And I'm like, so the lady come around. I was like, so how much is she? And so they started listing all the stuff that we get with her, a starter kit, a cage, and all of this stuff and that and everything. I was like, oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. They're starting with this. Oh, Lord. This isn't going to... Oh, boy. And they gave me the price. So...
Am I going to be hiring you to do little chores around the house now?
No. I did the math, and it's actually it's within my budget. I financed a dog. I never thought I would finance a dog. I paid more
a dog.
I paid more for a dog than I have some of my older vehicles. So I'm sitting there like, it took more paperwork. I had to fill out more paperwork on the dog than I did than a damn car. I was like, holy crap. I joked around. I was like, oh, I've bought cars before. I'm used to signing stuff. Yeah, I'm used to signing stuff, but it was just like, and sign this and initial this and sign this and initial this and sign this and initial this and sign this and initial this. I'm like, good Lord. And they're having to go over all the terms, the warranty and everything else. My dog has a warranty, has a 3-year warranty, in fact, and all of this jazz. And I was like, I just want a cute puppy, damn it. But so her name is Willow. Totally not planned on getting her. Eventually we were going to get a corgi, or we have a very selective breed pool that we pick from. We are kind of picky, and they don't have to be purebred, but we do like the presentation or the demeanor of, that's actually better. The demeanor of, like, we have a old beagle that, and I emphasize old, that we have no idea what she's mixed with, but we've had her for 15 years. And she wasn't a puppy when we got her, so we're not sure. We think death is afraid of her. And before we had our chocolate lab, I've talked to him about him on the podcast before. He's the pup, for those who remember that particular story. And for those who don't, my wife, I can't remember what she went to do, but she went to do something and wasn't paying attention to where her hand was, and she accidentally shoved her thumb in my dog's butt. That would be Jackson. She didn't mean to, and it surprised her, and let me tell you, it surprised the fuck out of Jackson too. And she said all he did was, arr! And jumped straight off the bed and was like looking at her like, Mom, what was that? And why? So that's the art story. Last time I told that story, someone was like, thanks, I think I'm going to be drug tested tomorrow because I damn near fell out of my chair laughing. So hopefully that doesn't happen again, but if it does, sorry. So, but we had a chocolate lab that we rescued because he was too rambunctious for the family that adopted him. We had a beagle that we rescued. We have a defective not corgi. We have a defective Cocker Spaniel. We bought her off of a breeder because she couldn't have puppies. She miscarried every litter that she ever had. And so she's like, and you could tell she didn't really want to give her up, but she needed to get a breeding dog in. So we ended up picking her up. We got a discount. We ended up having to pay for her to get neutered. Not a big deal because we weren't planning on breeding her. But she's a AKC registered Cocker Spaniel, but that's not why we got her. She's a show champion. For us, she's just a little golden Chewbacca looking pig because she is the most food hungry hound ever. But we love her. Her name's Alice. And then, then we have Willow. I wanted Susie. She said no. She wanted Willow. So needless to say, the dog's name is Willow. I got to pick her middle name. So because she's ACA registered, so you have to send in a form with her show name. And I'm thinking Willow Bagel Buns because the person who brought her in, apparently the person who brings their corgis in names them all after bread. And I guess she was codenamed Bagel. So they called her Bagel for a while. I thought it was cute. I tried to get it to change from Willow to Bagel. At least, needless to say, she's Willow. Because I lost that fight too. You notice a pattern here? Yeah, me too. Yeah. But I did talk her into for her show name to be, because we're never going to show her, but her registration name to be Willow Bagel Buns. Because corgis have a big round brown butt. That's kind of what they're known for. That and sploobing, whatever the hell it's called. Splooting. So she's got a bagel bun. So it's Willow Bagel Buns. I thought it was
And then
cute.
there's me. I have a cat. As with all cats, whenever one says, what kind of cat do you have? Asshole.
Which is a fairly accurate description upon me. I mean, knowing your cat. She was like, I was petting her. She was purring. Next thing I know, she's like, "Rawr," and clawed me. Marie goes, well, she's done. I was like, thanks.
Okay, I will say.
A little bit more warning.
Unless she bunny kicked you, she just smacked you.
Yeah, no. I mean, she didn't claw me, but she booped me real good. And she's like, she's done. I was like, I looked at the cat. I'm like, a little more warning next time, like.
No, they're cats. They go right to murder.
Yeah,
you hit the murder button.
It's like purr to hard boop. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah. Yeah, this one, honestly, I like the one before this. I had before this cat better. I mean, don't get me wrong. I really like my cat. Love my cat. But the one I had before was a total love bug. This one tolerates me.
So it was more like a middle?
Yeah.
Less pincushion?
Yeah. And I have yet to see... I've had this cat for a couple of years. No, it would be 3 years now, I think. And I have yet to see it blep. I can't trust a cat that doesn't blep. There's something wrong with it.
Doesn't what?
Where it leaves their tongue hanging out a little bit.
Oh.
It's called a blep.
Oh.
And
Middle never did until he started losing his front teeth. Now that's all he does.
I know. But I haven't caught her doing that ever. And my other tuxedo cat also didn't seem to blep very often. The calico I had just before, oh yeah, she blepped all over the place. So.
Herpa-derpa.
Pretty much. But
I'm a blurping fool, man.
Yeah, so that, like I say, that's what's been going on in our lives, it seems like. Just regular stuff, and Larry acquired yet another. Did you mention the little kitten?
Well, technically the kitten isn't mine. She's my daughter-in-law's. It was funny because we were like, hey, let's introduce them, because they're only like a month apart in age. So I was like, introduce them. And it was funny because one would show interest in the other, then the other would run away, and then the opposite would happen, and then the opposite would happen, and her butt was always poof, the cat, not the dog. Well, actually, the dog's butt's poof too, but for totally different reasons. It's because she's a corgi, that's why her butt's poof. And so eventually she ended up booping the dog, and the dog was just like, fuck her, and just like didn't even seem to really care. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, they are going to end up being best of. I can already see this. Because they're not being like super mean to each other, but they are most definitely testing the waters. But there was no like super aggression day one, or first moment that they saw each other, which I was like, yep, they're fine.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering how they would interact.
Actually really well. I mean, it was, like I said, there was no super aggression. Cat did poof her tail up pretty good, but it's not like the cat went after her or she went after the cat. The dog was pretty indifferent other than, hey, let's play. The cat puffed her butt up a little bit and was like, I'm not entirely sure about this situation, but didn't go super mean or like attack her. And actually did go up to her, sniffed her a few times, backed off, went up to her, so I'm positive.
Yeah, that sounds like a good first reaction.
Especially for two animals that are only, well, the cat's 3.5 months and the dog's 2.5 months. So for especially that young, and that's why I'm like kind of hoping that they're going to end up getting along, is because they're both young. They can both imprint on each other. Then they can be friends. Being friends is real good.
Yeah.
So I have a couple dilemmas going on right now, and maybe you and or listener land can help me out on this. And no, I haven't brought this to your attention yet. And my dilemma is kind of silly. No, well, not silly, but I wouldn't say super normal. If you hear any clacking around, I am actually trying to tidy up my studio while we podcast. So that's what that noise is. So sorry, not sorry. But anyways, so here's one of my old. Oh, that was something I need to talk about. I need to figure out, And as fans of the podcast and people who've been listening for a hot minute and a while, maybe you can help me out with this. I need to figure out how to number this podcast. I have a couple different ideas on how I kind of want to do. The first thing that I'm thinking is continue it off of After Hours, which to me honestly makes the most sense because while this isn't exactly After Hours, it's very similar in scope and how we are acting on the show. Maybe a little bit less dick and fart jokes, but at the same token, same general flavor. Not a lot of prep, maybe a little bit ahead of time, not a lot of editing. You know, it's essentially the same show. Now, my next feeling is start over, and also there's other behind the scenes things that would help if we kept the numbering. One, it shows longevity for anyone who comes and checks out the podcast. Two, it shows sponsorships eventually if we ever go get them. And in a nutshell, basically the podcast would just be Models Workshop After Hours without the After Hours. It would just be Models Workshop because it's what we are. It's what we are. People expect what we are on the After Hours podcast if they ever meet us, and we try not to disappoint. Now, we can also start the numbering scheme over again, which has its advantages and disadvantages. I don't think the show is different enough to really honestly warrant a starting over. There's also the question of what do we do with the Games and Gadgets podcast. Eventually, what I might do is upload them onto this server, but don't publish them, just list them. So they don't get pushed out, but they're still there for people who are listening to the back catalog because they are part of the back catalog. There was a fair amount of episodes that were there, and it would actually help fill that empty gap that is super big and empty. And then there's just not numbering the podcast. Just put them down like episode 1 of 2023, episode 2 of 2023, and then next year, episode 1 of 2024. I don't know. Or just put it as date. Like, hey, this podcast was recorded on the 21st. So this is January 21st episode. So there's like 3 or 4 different options that we have going on right there that is bouncing around in my head. I'm honestly really, truly leaning towards going with the continuation of the numbering and then incorporating the Gamers and Gadgets podcast into that numbering. Or just going with the standard date format. Just be like, hey, in this episode, we talked about this, you know. So if you have any ideas and comment and concern, you know how to get a hold of me for everyone who cares. If not, modelsworkshoppodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook.
Sorry, I was just answering a reply to a comment I made on a Kickstarter.
Nice. So, Kickstarter, speaking of which,
yes,
did we cover the reemergence of COVID in China on last episode? Okay, so
I don't think we did.
I'll cover over it real quick. It doesn't need a lot of time spent on it, but in a nutshell, COVID is hitting China again really hard, especially in the manufacturing districts. So one of the Kickstarters that I backed was like, hey, we were supposed to have like 38 Connexes packed or 28 Connexes packed. We have 8, and they're not expecting to get these done until like the beginning of March now. Basically, they're operating at about 15%, and they're not sure if that's going to be able to hold. So
the last headline I saw was 80% infection rate in China.
Right. And that's what I mean. They're down to like 15-20% production, which means the people on the floor, which the Kickstarters that are wrapping up right now are probably not going to be affected super, super hard. But what's going to be affected are the Kickstarters that are running and just finished like maybe in the last month or two, because they probably contacted these people and are like, hey, we need work done. And they're like, oh, we have production schedules open on February, you know, we can pencil you in. Well, now those February start dates are going to get pushed back to March, April, maybe even May. And then they're
going to hit a TBD level.
Yes. And then you're going to end up getting an extra Chinese New Year wrapped up into that. And on top of that, when they finally get around in April or May, or even possibly later, depending on when Chinese New Year is, they are probably still not going to be at 100%. So when they said it was going to take 3 months production, it could take 4, it could take 12. So
because the other thing is the number of companies that depend on China for their ongoing inventory.
On top of the Kickstarter manufacturing as well. So a lot of companies that are produced in China, to
be honest, Kickstarters are going to get moved off the list if an established customer needs the factory floor.
Well, you brought up a point about Reaper's newest Kickstarter, didn't you?
I saw something. I don't have a lot about it. I don't watch the Reaper lives.
Take this with a grain of salt, because
I'm not going to get too deep into it, simply because I can state the fact and people can discuss amongst themselves. It was said, I believe, in a Reaper Live or in a Bones 6 update that they're going to start 3D printing miniatures. And the general consensus is shutting people down who are getting all kinds of flustery about the quality is that they're not going to be using one of our home level machines to do this. Let's face it. If they're going to be 3D printing for distribution, they're going to have a much higher level 3D printer.
And if you ever dealt with their Bones Black that they have, those are a type of 3D print. So,
well, those are simulcast.
Right. Isn't that...
No.
I thought that was a hybrid 3D print thing.
It might be, but it's 2-part molds, inject silocast, model comes out.
My if I was going to speculate, I would expect Bones Black level quality.
Well, I'm not going to talk about quality. The question that I have is keeping up with orders, because good quality 3D printing takes time.
Well, they can't even keep up with Bones that they've had out for 4 years. We've had this discussion. And
I know a lot of their newer stuff has been rendered as opposed to putty. But they still have some putty sculptors. And their entire back catalog is, unless they can scan it or do something else, that's all cast. But yeah, so the word going forward is that some of the miniatures are going to be 3D printed. And again, there's a hue and outcry about that, plus, minus. Again, they won't be using home level machines. I don't know how many.
We hope.
It's just not something as a business model they can do. They'll be using different resins. They'll be using different machines. They'll be using probably similar to what they have their masters printed on before they're made into molds. Some level like that.
I'm still going to throw out the caveat of I hope, because this is kind of unknown territory.
I asked Jason Wiebe if he was interested in sculpting a mini for me. Yes. Okay, fine. I'm completely spoiled. I go on Facebook Messenger. I ask Jason Wiebe, internationally known sculptor, hey, Jason, you got time to do a mini for me? He's like, yeah, sure. What do you want? Anyway. So I told him.
Humble brag, not implied. Absolutely not implied.
I'm spoiled. I'm freaking spoiled. I am completely freaking spoiled, and I know it. So he sculpted the mini. He asked if I wanted a print, and what I got was a master level print. So he gave me the file. I said, do whatever the heck you want with it. So I have distribution rights over my file. But he gave me the master, and it's orange. But it's definitely, you can't feel a mold line, a layer line on that thing. You literally, it is smooth as anything when you run your hand down it. It is beautiful. You don't see support marks. It's gorgeous. So if they're using a similar level of quality, I don't know how long it takes to print. That's my concern. If they're doing this is keeping up with orders in that respect, especially if they're doing larger ones. Again, I don't know what their plan is, but so yeah, I have the only mini in existence from this sculpt, and I have the file. So, and the reason I got it no longer existed by the time I got the mini. I'm like, well, son of a. So now I've got this great mini that I paid for, and I don't really have a need for it.
See,
story of my life there, Larry. Story of my life.
I personally contact Sandra Goretti because, one, she's actually local.
Sandra and I had a 3-month email discussion about strawberry marshmallows.
Honestly, knowing Sandra, that does not surprise me. We really need to drive up there one day, grab the mobile kit, and sit her down and treat her and her husband to a steak dinner and talk her ear off.
Oh, I missed her. I didn't get to see her this year. I saw her the last Gen Con I went to. She was at what's the terrain company she sculpts for? What's the big
Dwarven Forge?
Dwarven Forge. She was at the Dwarven Forge booth, I believe. So I got to see her and get a hug from her and do all the chitty chatty stuff and all that good stuff. So I was able to see her, which was really nice. I've missed her. So
yeah, she was always a favorite of mine, and then I reached out to her on Facebook, and she
except for her tiny freaking little eyes. Not her,
True.
but her minis.
True.
I have scolded her repeatedly about her tiny freaking little eyes. And I have to remind her she owes me a big eye, little mouth mini. She promised me one just for me because I was complaining so much. That, and she wanted to make a sculpt of one of my dogs when I had dogs.
Nice.
Because you know how she likes to have the little animals thrown in here and there.
Mm-hmm.
She felt I had a Yorkie, one of the little stubby, the stout, firm little Yorkies, and just adorable little thing. And she fell in love with the dog. There's a story behind how she got to meet the dog. It's a whole different thing. And I should probably remind her she wanted to sculpt it. So if she did, I want to make sure I can get a copy of whatever it is, because that's my dog, darn it.
Right.
So
there's that. Kickstarters are probably going to be pushed back. Production is probably going to be pushed back. So if anything is made in China, especially if it's molded or injected, it was funny because I went to my local Games Workshop because so there is one tool that Games Workshop makes, and I'm sure there is a cheaper version of it somewhere out there. I have not looked super hard, but I have looked, and I have yet to find it. It's probably in an airplane mag. If anybody, it's going to be like in a historical airplane magazine or something where I can order it. But I have always loved the mold line remover that GW makes. So I have my original one here that I think I own two of them, actually. I'm pretty sure I've got two of them laying around. And I love this thing. Like, I use the hell out of this thing. And I absolutely love it. Well, they had a version 2 that came out. So I swung into the local GW and I was like, I'm going to pick it up because I want to see if it's an actual upgrade. I know it's $7 more expensive, which was like, and there is some differences. The blade has a slightly different shape. The nose on it is longer, which has perks and downsides. It definitely has a lot more flex because it's longer and thinner. But I have my original one, and then I bought a new one. But the cool thing about it is my local Games Workshop to where I work in Dayton is kind of cursed. They had a guy that worked there that was an absolute tool. Like, I'm straight up with my GW people. Like, whenever I go into a store, I'm like, look, I've been playing GW and painting miniatures since 2nd edition, since the 90s. Don't try to blow smoke up my butt. Don't try to spin me a yarn. Don't try to do any of this stuff because I'm not going to appreciate it, and I will not ever come back in here. If I have a question about a new product, I'll ask you. If I need clarification, I'll ask you. Don't spin a yarn. Don't try to be like, well, this is better than water. This is the best darn thing ever. Don't do that. Just give me the straight up. So the guy that was there before not only tried to basically sell me what's a good way of putting it? Basically, he was feeding me a line of shit. And which is, I specifically asked him not to. He was also just an asshole, like a total asshole. And I'm not the only person that thought that, which is refreshing because my asshole filter sometimes is a little skewed. I think it picks up myself and goes off. So I'm like, man, is this guy really an asshole? But I talked to a few other people who started coming back to the GW store after this dude was fired. And no, I was not by far the only person who thought that. Apparently this guy was not well received in the area, and he essentially drove everybody off. He ended up getting fired for using his discount to buy stuff and then selling it on eBay.
You know, he's not the first. I've heard of other people doing that as well.
That's
check the link I just sent you in Messenger.
I honestly think that's to a point that it's probably acceptable, but
to a point, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
But it's acceptable, and then it's just assholery.
No, I know what these blades are. No, completely different.
Okay.
These are they're carving blades, but they're called like hook bill carving blades.
Yeah, there's the site. I sent him a link to one of my favorite sites, which is Widget Supply. I have spent many a dollar here, and I sent him their number 28 from Excel, which is the X-Acto concave knife blade. It's similar in style to what he's talking about with the resin line remover, the mold line remover that he's talking about.
No, these are not as thin as a razor blade. They're actually quite thick. They're not a razor blade at all. They look like it if you're just looking at it from the side, but once you get it, like I can press my finger into it and it's completely dull. I'll have to bring it over. Like it's
okay.
A lot of people are like, "Oh, this just like just use an X-Acto knife." If you're going to compare it to anything, it's like using the back of an X-Acto blade. You know, where it's dull, and you're going through and you're like whittling the mold lines off with it. That is the closest way I can describe it. But the mold line remover does it even better because it's thicker. It has a really hard edge, and it's a perfectly 90-degree edge too. So it's perfectly 90 degrees. So it's great. You can angle it to get a better bite into it. It's just, for anyone who's used it, they'll know what I'm talking about. But the closest I can come up with is using the back of an X-Acto blade, which has its own problems. Kind of dangerous if you're not careful. I've slipped my thumb open before doing that because I wasn't paying attention. Totally my fault. But yeah, the back of X-Acto blade is the closest I can come to it. But I absolutely love this tool. Like I said, I've talked about it numerous times, and other people have been like, "Oh, I'm sure there's another product, probably cheaper too." It was $20. The version 2. No, it's 18 for the old one. It's 25 for the new one. So it's a one-time purchase. This thing doesn't dull. I've used the hell out of this thing. I've got a monstrous Space Marine army, and I use the hell out of it to remove the mold lines on all of those pieces. I've been using it on my Battletech stuff. The thing just does not dull. It's not a product that deteriorates at a pace that... it's not a like yearly replacement type deal. If anything, if I have to replace this thing after 10 years, I would be surprised, in all honesty.
It's not a consumable like X-Acto blades.
Right. So it being a $25 purchase, yes, expensive up front, does an amazing job at what it's exactly supposed to. I'm still not sold on the version 2 though.
Can I do my little vent about $25 tool?
Sure, feel free.
I'm not going to name. No, it isn't that kind of $25 tool. I
am much more expensive than that. Thank you very much. I am definitely not just a $25 tool.
I have hardened nippers. Obviously, I have the good nippers.
Hold on. Okay. Can we please not ever use hardened nippers right next to each other?
Term.
I get that. But seriously, not what came through my mind, and I almost shot water onto my computer.
I'll count that as a victory point.
I have hardened nippers. Watch them cut glass. Meow. It is kind of cold out.
These are what you use for cutting piano wire, which is a hardened wire. It's full hard instead of soft hard, which those are jeweler's terms. Larry, come on, grow up a little bit here.
No, that ruins the show at this point.
I can get piano wire, or I could, at least through my Hobbytown franchise, for $2 for 4 pieces of it. Piano wire was dirt cheap. The problem is that piano wire will eat nippers for breakfast. If you try to use regular nippers on it, it'll chip them. It'll break them.
It will absolutely.
So you have to buy the $25 hardened nippers to actually cut piano wire. So the wire is really, really cheap. It's cheaper than brass rod in some respects. But you got to buy the really expensive tools so that you don't break your tools. Because it will eat nippers for lunch. It will laugh. Now you know why they make garrotes out of piano wire.
True. Yeah, and I have messed around with piano and guitar wire, and 100%, it will absolutely destroy a normal set. It actually, wire cutters have a problem with it. Like
these are specifically hardened steel to deal with that level of hardened wire. So if you ever need to borrow them, this way you don't have to buy the $25 tool. And there is no, get a different, no, you have one choice when it comes to these.
And that's
because it's
what
a
I'm saying
very
with
specialized tool.
So, but I went to my GW shop, the one that's cursed. We had like replacements. If a GW store does not have an employee, they will ship somebody in. We had someone come in from Houston for like 3 or 4 months, another location for a few months. Then we finally got a replacement. He was a veteran. He was super cool. And he ended up deciding he wanted to go back to school, which I don't blame him. But at the same time, I liked him, so I was a little sad when he decided to quit. Apparently, it was on good terms, though, because I was like, did he get fired? And they're like, no, he just went back to school. Everything was on good terms. I was like, all right, cool. And the new guy we had, he moved from Queens, New York to Ohio to work at the Games Workshop here at our local Huber Heights Games Workshop. And the coolest thing about that, he's British. He moved over from the UK when he was 14, but he was sitting there talking, and it's not a strong British accent, but it's definitely there. And I'm like, what part of you? I was like, you're from the UK, aren't you? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, all right, cool. I thought I was losing it. And we started talking about stuff, but high hopes about this guy. Seems totally cool. So if you're in the Dayton, Ohio area and you've been chased off or scared off of the Games Workshop there, feel free to go back in. Dude is a total boss. He's so awesome. We just sat there, shot the shit for probably to the point where he was like, okay, I would honestly love to chit chat more, but I have to go to lunch. Apparently they are actually quote unquote forced to go to lunch and all of that jazz. But he was like totally cool, totally laid back. He let me handle his tools, and so GW has a new set of nippers out, and they are expensive. I really don't know how to sugarcoat it. And the original ones were like 20 or $25. So these are like 50. And I'm like, oh boy, that's expensive. But I held them and messed around with them. And I'm like, man, these are actually really, really nice. I mean, I have one of the podcast listeners ordered a set of God hands for me because I wanted to test them. And they're like $55. And they're the platinum grade when it comes to nippers. Like, I have not met a set of nippers that are as good as the God hands. Weird name, I know. I always thought that they were interesting, but it's a literal translation. They didn't even try to come up with an American name. So the literal translation is God hands. And I have not picked up a set of nips that are anywhere near as good as those. Now you have to be careful.
I'm gonna have to test those against my Cylons.
Okay. I typically use Hack-On nips.
Because I believe that's the brand name. It belongs with an X, I believe. Xylons. I have good nippers. I have the ones that I keep in the little. I actually put the little plastic cover back over the
right
blades.
So typically, what I use and I still use these for most of my general nipping. I reserve the God hands if there's something that's like very fragile or in an area that's incredibly hard because of the way the blades are designed. They're incredibly sharp. It's like an X-Acto. It's as sharp as an X-Acto blade, and it's only bladed on one side. It's blunt. It's a blunt bladed design, and it just slices through sprue. Like if you're super careful with them, you won't even have a nub where you cut it off the sprue to remove.
Yeah, the ones that I use are the ones that model railroaders use to cut track.
Okay, so
yeah, I definitely want to test mine against yours.
I have seen those. I have seen
Nipper
those.
Wars.
But man, I did handle the new GW nippers. They were sold out, which actually kind of speaks to them. And I did get to mess around. He had one of the old sets and one of the new sets. And I'm not going to lie, in the hand, they were really nice. They are definitely softer then like the spring is definitely softer than on the other model. It is a double-bladed design, like typically what we use. But it was, the old ones had a pretty rough spring. And I can imagine someone like myself who has hand problems after a while. Well, I don't have strength, but you know what I mean. Other people with like actual strength issues with their hands or possibly arthritis would or could have issues with the Games Workshop, the old ones. The new ones, the spring is softer, but it's definitely there, and it's very smooth through the entire sweep. Like a lot of them, whenever you get them, they'll start soft, and then they get a lot more. You have to put more oomph into it. I don't want to say, and they get harder, but that is what it does. This one seemed to stay very constant all throughout the swing on the bite, and it had a really good release spring too. So it's a Games Workshop product. It's $50, but I'll be damned if I'm really honestly not tempted to pick up a pair to test with, because man, it really does seem nice. Now, don't get me wrong. My typical go-to are Hakon. It's like Hakon or Hakon on Amazon, and they're like $8, and they've been $8 for like the last decade. And if you,
I have a set. I got a mini set of tools, Craftsman tools. That's mini pliers, nice little pliers, flush nipper and side nipper, and then I have my Xylons. The hardened one just sits off to the side because I only need that in certain circumstances. But I have the obviously flush nippers and then regular nippers, because you need all different kinds to try and get this nonsense off of there, especially since I'm a metal snob. Mm-hmm. That makes the nippers even more important. Yeah. Because trying to cut through plastic, great. Trying to cut through metal, yeah, okay, takes a little bit more.
I typically break out the jeweler saw at that point. Unless I'm just hacking away some parts of a pewter. But if I'm trying to get precise, I will usually pull out like a jeweler saw and like a double blade.
If I'm just pulling something off a sprue,
well, that's
I'm
different.
Not gonna pull out, I'm not going to pull out the jeweler. I'll pull out the jeweler saw if I'm doing something more major, like cutting off an arm or something.
Or something you need to be precise on, because with pewter, honestly, you can be a lot more precise with a jeweler saw than you can. And for those who don't know what a jeweler saw is, it's effectively, it's this handle that attaches on one side. It's this big, huge, upside down U that has an adjustment knob in the middle where you can shorten it or lengthen it. And then you end up stringing this really fine saw blade between the handle and the end. And
now there's a trick to stringing this too, which is the thing that people forget, because the saw end, the bracket end, actually ends with a flange. What you end up having to do is you have to use your whole body. You push it up against like your bench edge to compress it, and then you put the blade in, hopefully with the teeth facing out and down, because we've all screwed it up and had the teeth facing in the wrong direction. You screw the blade in, and when you release it, it puts tension on that blade. So it's not a simple, people forget to put the tension on it, and you get kind of a sloppy jeweler saw cut then.
You can actually put them, to be fair, you can actually use the blade facing out or facing in, depending on how you want to cut it.
Correct. Just
most
make sure it's
jewelers,
facing the way you want it.
Yes.
Is what I was coming.
Most jewelers will actually make it where it's facing up whenever they're using them, because it's called a jeweler's saw because it is legitimately a saw that jewelers use. This is a very common tool in jewelry making. We just adopted them because
we take everything.
In a nutshell, half your tools that you use in hobbycraft probably 90% of the tools that we use in hobbycraft were designed for either jewelry. A lot of them are jewelry of some flavor, from gold crafting, silversmithing, goldsmithing, to beads, jewels. Also, electrical work, electrical engineering. Several of our tools come from electrical engineering, like nips.
And from the medical field.
Mm-hmm. Hemostats.
Medical and dental. Yeah, hemostats, scalpel blades.
Putty. Several of the putties.
Dental tools used for sculpting.
Mm-hmm.
There's a number 14 packer that's absolutely perfect for 1/6 scale collarbones.
But yeah, so almost all of our tools were not designed with miniature. Now, in the recent years, there's been more and more tools that were designed for miniatures. Like God hands are designed for miniatures, whereas your standard nips that you use quite often are actually for electrical engineers. So if you ever want to know what the best nips are for general overall use, and you know an electrical engineer, ask them what nips they use.
Well, it also depends because the scale is different. We had a good set of Klein, but those are meant for things like, rewiring a house. So trying to maneuver those in among a miniature ain't going to happen.
I'm not talking about like electrical people. I'm talking about the ones that are actually getting into fine machines.
I know.
My first pair of nips that I ever have, a friend of mine was an electrical engineer at GM, and he was like, hey, here you go. I can't use them anymore. They're starting to dull a little bit. And for them, dulling like after he uses them like 10 or 20, 30 times, he couldn't use them anymore. But for us, they were fine. It's like, okay, cool. But he worked on the machines, like the actual robots and everything that built stuff. So he needed these really awesome tools. And yeah, he was the first person I ever got a set of nips from. And I treasured those things because back then you couldn't find nips. We're talking late 90s, early 2000s when miniature stuff was, interwebs was still kind of in its the dark ages, and AOL was still a major contender, and smartphones.
Well, that's why my miniature set is Craftsman, which means if anything ever happens to them, I can just go take them to someone who sells Craftsman. I have to take all three because they're a set and get a brand new set.
Not 100% sure anymore because Craftsman has been sold like 2 or 3 times since then. But
I think they still honor that warranty, I believe.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to. That's another key point.
That's the other thing. Well, if it's broken anyway, But so
yeah,
there's that.
So yeah, there's a brief overview of the history of tools and how they've evolved. I did pick up. I have them here in the package because I picked them up from a store that sells Bandai, the Gundam people, and it's the Bandai Spirit entry nippers, and they were $10. I like them because they're actually kind of small. They're not the same size as your normal nippers. They're kind of like they're like an inch shorter, so they're more hand sized. I was like, that's kind of neat. And eventually, my plan is I'm going to get like the Hack-Ons, the God Hands, these entry nippers. I think there was like a $20 set from Bandai I was also going to pick up. And I was going to pick up the GWs, but...
Yeah, well...
I really need to register for like an LLC or something so I can write this stuff off of my taxes because, man, $50 nippers that I might only use once.
Have I told you about the nippers that I use for cleaning the support material off 3D resin prints? The ones that I found.
Do I want to know?
Actually, you probably do because these are the ones that I found that work absolutely freaking fantastic, and they're dollar store cuticle scissors.
I do have a set of cuticle scissors that are laying around my thing for that actual purpose. They
have, the nice thing is that they don't rust because you're working a lot with water when you're post processing, and they work great. I mean, they pull them right off. They don't even leave a nub. If they do, I just scrape it off with a hobby knife, obviously. But they're the best thing I found for cleaning. So I heck, throw those in there in the let's see how the nippers do. These little $1.25 cuticle scissors.
Oh yeah, I'll toss them in there. So another thing,
never ever discount the fact that there's good stuff at the dollar store.
Another thing that I found is I bought a set for nails, and there was this little scraper, this little bladed looking thing, and it's designed to scrape off the hard skin on the outsides of your nails.
Yeah.
And it's this little bladed thing, and it does an amazing job. And I'm sitting there, I was like, what the hell could this thing do on miniatures? People
use a lot of nail art brushes for painting miniatures. They're recommended a lot. I personally don't, but some of them really do work. They have the thin, long, their miniature version of a liner. Because that's what they're doing is they're painting lines. And most artist brush liners are just too big. to use on miniatures. When the bristles are over an inch long, because that's what liners do best, not exactly going to be easy. But the ones for nails obviously are a lot smaller.
So I have this really weird set. All right, so many years ago, we're talking probably 5 or 6 years ago, there was some really weird pricing stuff going on with Winsor Newton Series 7s.
Oh yeah, there are difficulties there.
Well,
that's
that's different. That I'm not talking about the embargo. I actually wrote a big article about the embargo and what was going on and why the shortage was happening. Because a lot of people were just really not informed what the heck was going on and why they could get some brushes and why they couldn't. I think the article is "Where Have All My Brushes Gone?" And in a nutshell, a lot of major brush manufacturers were just getting Kolinsky sable fur from wherever because there was no problems. Well, in a certain region in China, suddenly the Kolinsky sable became not endangered, but it was put on a watch list. Well, what happened then is at that point, even though they are super common in Russia, they are considered a pest, a nuisance in Russia. They're very plentiful in Russia. And this one itty bitty and everywhere else in China, they were fine. It was just this one very specific region. But since they didn't have the sticker of where they came from initially, they couldn't send any of that fur over to the United States because it was our thing that was stopping it. It was our embargo.
Right. It was all a customs thing.
Right. It was a customs embargo. But so the problem is that these brushes, since they didn't have an origin sticker on this fur, they embargoed the fur and said, hey, unless it has an origination sticker saying, hey, this fur was not farmed in an area where these things are on a watch list, you can't bring it in. So part of the reason that a lot of these Kolinsky brushes disappeared for a year, or if not a little bit longer, because they had just harvested. They had just gotten done with the harvest. And yeah.
Did you know that people were smuggling them from China? From Canada?
Yeah. How do you think I got my brushes? I had them. I had friends of mine ship them over from the UK.
We were all smuggling paintbrushes.
Yeah, we were breaking embargo and smuggling brushes in, and that's why for like a solid year you couldn't get Series 7s, you couldn't get Da Vinci's.
You couldn't get any Kolinsky artist watercolor brushes.
Oddly enough, you could get Rosemary and Co. And I don't know if they just said screw it and shipped it from their factory in the UK and just didn't care, or if actually. There was a few places that I think that they only single sourced their brushes, so they were able to be like, "Hey."
Trying to find Kolinsky's was nuts. So everyone was clutching their brushes desperately, going, "Please don't die on me! Please don't die on me!"
Right. So that's what happened with the embargo. Was nuts.
So a super glue swipe during that time was even more traumatic.
Yeah, you didn't just ruin a $14 brush. You literally ruined a $14 brush that you absolutely could not replace.
An irreplaceable $14 brush.
Unless you had friends in Canada or friends in the UK who are willing to ship this stuff over and try to bust the embargo.
Yeah, there was an underground for that, but
that was a weird time.
Kickstarters. Let's move on to Kickstarters.
Hold on. That was actually a tangent. What I was going to say is, no, at one point they were selling sets of brushes, and Winsor Newton sold them in sets of 3, and they were really oddly priced. Like you could order them like dirt cheap, and we're talking like size 4 type brushes, so big ones. They're normally like the $50, $60 brushes. I picked up a set, and I have it around here somewhere in one of my brush cases. I picked up a set of Winsor Newton Series 7s, and it is the weirdest set of Series 7s I have ever seen. It legitimately had a liner brush in it. It had a Winsor Newton Series 7 Kolinsky liner brush. And it also had, what else? Like all 3 brushes, I picked it up because it was dirt cheap, and I think it had like one normal round brush, and it was like a size 5. And the box set total was cheaper than that one brush. So I was like, I'll just buy the box set. Hopefully Amazon will fulfill it, because a lot of people are getting their orders canceled. Some people did actually get them at the price, and we're talking like $15 for a set of brushes and multiples of them. But I have as far as I know, a couple brushes that the only way you could ever get these brushes were in this weird set, and I don't even know if they make them anymore, but it was like a liner brush and all of that jazz. So yeah, I have a Winsor & Newton Series 7, a super high-end brush, and it's a liner brush, like you were talking about nail art. But okay, so now that I've run the tangent and my actual topic, Kickstarters. What's up with the Kickstarters?
Okay. Well, we're going to start with the one where I mentioned I was typing a reply to a comment. This is one, and I'm not going to bring it up because of this. I'm not going to talk about exactly which one it is. It's a universal miniature war game system. And it looks like it's kind of one-page rule-ish, but it's got fantasy and sci-fi. So you can see the obvious parallels between them and Games Workshop stuff. And it's on hexes, so they got a little bit of BattleTech in there, and they have the whole thing. Now, first of all, they did something that in their rule book, which looks awesome when you look at it until you actually try to use it, which is black with white text. I personally disliked that because it's very hard to read after about 2 minutes. White on black is just not exactly eye-friendly, especially the older I get. And I was going to back for the PDF. As much as I'd like the book, it's shipping from Australia. And to get the book, the shipping is as much as the book.
Yep.
The shipping from Australia. And they even said they were amazed, but anything shipped to or from Australia is just silly expensive. And I was asking them to confirm, is the PDF going to have this ink-draining black background on it? And they said, yes, it's going to look exactly like the rule book. So I'm going to be canceling my pledge after telling them, because it's like, no, you can't read this on a phone. You can't read it on a tablet. You can't read. Black background is icky. It's a bad design choice, in my opinion. And then I'm looking at one of their data cards that has gray on the lines with then lighter gray text for the values. It's like, okay, guys, how old are you? Like 20? Do your eyes still work really good? Because, again, this is not at all eye-friendly. This is not a good, in my opinion, rule book. It's pretty. It's a coffee table book. But as a rule book, it would just absolutely stink in that respect. So I'm going to be canceling my pledge and explaining, well, first of all, it's like, and really what it comes down to is, as interesting as the rules might be, it's fairly useless as a rule book to me in that respect, because I can't read the silly thing.
And
it's a great concept. I mean, I'll send you the link if you want it.
It seems like it would be it would be reasonably easy to flip that.
Not with pictures. When you start getting pictures, just doing an inversion, just going through and just doing an inversion, using manipulation. Yeah, but because it's got the full color pictures in it, you can't do it. Because it'd be a beautiful book, and the rules look really interesting in a lot of respects. But honestly, and they try and get you to subscribe to their app, which is where you can you do your army building. Even though you can get the compendium separate that has all the different factions and models within it and all that, and that's fine. I was going to buy the PDFs. I was going to back for that, and I'm going to cancel it simply because it's just not. I can't stand this. I can't stand this design choice. I think it's poorly done for rules, and especially on a PDF where you're going to be using it on your phone or on a tablet because you're using it when you're out and about. Awful, absolutely awful for when it comes to design choice.
Hell, normal rulebook. Okay, so as a lot of you know, I'm getting into BattleTech. Actually, everybody's getting into BattleTech in our little play group. Marie, myself, Jer, all of us are, and Rebecca. And I think she's more so getting dragged into it, screaming and complaining. But we have a prefab little play group here that we get together, play various games. And I've always loved BattleTech. And Marie owns a ton of Cav and wants to play Cav. So the caveat on this is we get to play BattleTech, and she gets to teach us how to play Cav, which is fine because that's always been on my list of wanting to learn how to play as well. And who knows, maybe if we like elements of both systems, we can
stompy robots. Robots.
In a nutshell, it's just stompy damn robots. And so I have the rule book I have like 29 rule books, because the Humble Bundle was $30. You got 29 rule books. You got a voucher to go get the starter set for free. You just had to pay shipping, which was like $7, which was pretty nice. It comes with the starter set, all the basic rules, a couple mechs, the cards for the mechs, and all that jazz. But I have the rule book for the actual rule book for the game, and I have used it to read. It might be good for referencing, but I'm in the process of trying to learn the rules right now. I dropped $50 and went out and bought the actual rule book. I'm crazy like that. I actually like having the physical rule book. I know Marie's going to print hers out, and Jer I think already has a hard copy of it.
Yeah, he said he already has a copy of that one, but he might need BattleTech Classic.
Okay, so
which I also am going to be printing out.
And we have that rule book too. Actually, I went and bought that rule book this weekend too.
Come on, I went and bought all the Warhammer rules. I'm kind of tapped out on my hobby budget for a little bit.
No, that's fine. If you own the PDFs and you want to print them where you can spiral bound them and remove sections that you just don't want, that is totally fine. And
yeah, I can do all that.
Right. I just like having the actual rule book. So I was like, and this game has changed like once in 30 years. So it's not like we have to every 3 years have to worry about buying a new damn rule book. So the version, there's a new version that they play, which is more skirmishy Warhammer 40K, get done with a game in an hour, even if you have like 10 mechs, versus the classic version. You bring 2 robots and you're going to be fighting for like 2 or 3 hours, which is fine. I do have a couple questions that I have. It's like the classic uses hex base, so you don't have to measure stuff out. Makes sense. The skirmish version uses a tape measure, but it's the faster version. I'm sitting there like, why not just use hex base for that too? I have my theories, and honestly, I think it's to entice the 40K players and other tabletop war game players to come over and attempt robots, because
the tape measures are familiar.
Right, versus the hex.
Cav uses tape measures.
Right. So, people are used to tape measures, so they're like, hey, come play it. We're just like the other games. And honestly, the miniatures are not badly priced. It averages it to $5 a mini. And I say that because it's not $5 a mini. It's a little bit over $5 a mini.
And the cool thing is you can still get a whole bunch of the original ones in metal from Iron Winds.
You can get like the original, the they have some of the Ralpartha sculpts.
Yeah.
They also have newer sculpts. They also have battle mechs that are not in plastic. But definitely look over before you order, because some of them, they have a couple atlases that I see, and I'm just like, yeah, from the waist up looks great. Waist down looks horrible. The legs are like super skinny, and I'm just like, what the hell? This is 100-ton battle mech. What the? Man, he skipped leg
Center
day.
Of gravity doesn't matter.
No, he definitely skipped leg day. But anywho, like, it's $25 for 4 minis for IS, which is Inner Sphere, which is the Imperium. And then it's $30 for 5 battle mechs for Clan. So,
I still have to go through and read and figure out essentially what faction, whatever they call them, I want to play.
So there's
I haven't read through them very much. I haven't spent a lot of time looking into BattleTech itself yet.
Right. So you have multiple houses that you can play, and then you have multiple clans that you can play.
But anyway,
and you can also play mercenaries.
So yeah, looking at this rule book, it's disappointing. I was looking forward to it because it is generic. I guess I'll just go back to having one-page rules and not worrying about it. I mean, it's wonderful that they're doing it, but as a design choice, I think it's awful.
Well, just even the point I was trying to get to with the BattleTech stuff was even a regular rule book that looks great, has properly designed text, is a pain in the ass to read on the phone, and them making it even harder to read on the phone. Man, come on. Did you even ask people? I used to switch my background to weird colors with a black with white. And do they not realize how much more expensive that's going to be if they do like print copies? Like, that black is going to freaking absolutely drive the cost up of the physical books.
And all black is glossy. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to, but
that's going to absolutely, I'm surprised the printer didn't warn them, like, hey,
Well,
no.
the rule book itself, the printed rule book, if you just get the rule book and then the PDF, the early bird price is $65 Australian, which comes out to be about $46 US right now. So it's about a $50 rule book, but it's 300 pages, full in color on that black paper. And
How?
If they're
I'm
expecting it to
seriously
be printed in China, that's going to be a problem.
Even in China, how? That's ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong in the respect, but for functionality, way at the bottom of the list in my opinion, because it's just not. It just hurts. I'm looking at it, trying to use this as a rule book and going through the compendium for getting my data cards. It'd be even worse because you can't even photocopy or I'll say photocopy. You can't even scan them or copy them to make your own data cards to have on hand. Because as soon as you try and print those things, all it does is destroy your printer.
No, you know what you do?
Because it's drinking your black ink.
You know what you do is you scan them and literally just reverse negative.
And deal with the fact they have these horribly, the pictures that are on them are just going to be awful.
Yeah, but I mean.
I know. Like I say, it's just, to me, it's a very poor design choice. And I'm going to regretfully back out of this simply because I don't agree. I can't see myself using this rule book in that respect. But the other one that I'm staying in, I'm trying to remember the name of the company that did the gaming tabletop, the little extra tables that sit on top of say your gaming table. So you have two levels, and you can put cards and roll dice under it, and then you have the game sitting on top. And I guess they're got a fairly long lead time, and they're not cheap to get those. Well, there's a Kickstarter out there that I backed. Of course, me, Kickstarter, where you 3D print in sections the same sort of thing. And they have it in different themes. And they've designed it to pack away in the, I want to say it's a lock. It's not a lock. It's one of the standard IKEA bookcases where they have the fabric drawers.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've got like two huge ones sitting right behind me.
I know. And you know the fabric drawers that come with them. And they're
Part
designed...
of the reason I need to make another trip to IKEA here soon.
I've never been to IKEA. Which is probably good because I can't walk much.
We would definitely need a mobile wheel device for you.
Pretty much. No loading me on the furniture dolly. I don't think they let you do that. But it's... I just gave him an idea. Kallax.
Stroking
Kallax.
the new...
That's the name.
I love Kallax. I have an unhealthy relationship with Kallax.
Yes. And the way that this packs up is they have holders for the base plates and then the twist locks and the leg. And then you have toppers that go on them. You can print one set. You can print out edges that you can put LEDs around it, so it'll shine LEDs. There's built-in accessories. You can print out one where it's got the dice roller that's kind of flush with the top and it rolls down below. And it looks like it's sturdy. It can hold more than 45 pounds, the way they've got it designed. A whole bunch of the stretch goals have been done. For the light version, which is the thinner, essentially basic one, for a 24 by 32 inch at draft quality, it takes about 230 hours, about 4.5 kilograms. And then the standard one, same tabletop size, standard quality, so it's 24 by 32. It's 459 hours and 5.5 kilograms of filament. So it takes time, like all 3D printing, but once it's done, it's done. And then you can have that extra, you can put it on the table and have all that extra space to work with. So you can put your books down, you can have your paper, you can have your dice, you can have everything there and still have the top where you're gaming. And I mean, it's not an inexpensive Kickstarter in some respects, but for what you get, yeah. And the commercial printing license, I looked at and discarded because for one thing, you need a print farm. For something this big, you would need a print farm.
How big is a print farm?
Well, you'd need a print farm, and I don't know how economically feasible it would be for people to buy this versus the other ones, to be honest. And the other thing is your commercial license is only good for 2 years. It's not a lifetime commercial license. Yeah, that's the other thing, that limited.
And see, I don't know this person, so I can't be like, let me talk to him and be like, hey, what's the logo?
And you need to have a reseller name and assigned reseller ID for approved reseller. So, I mean, they're definitely making it so that they want businesses to be able to do this, people who have print farms. But for 459 hours of printing, you definitely need to have multiple printers going. But I'm kind of looking forward to this one. The stuff that just got unlocked, their try before you buy is just a dice tower, so don't bother with that. The sci-fi theme got taken care of, some more accessories. Adjustable legs just got another set of adjustable legs. The anti-corner, which allows you to make peninsulas, so you're not just stuck to a rectangle now, you can make a peninsula out, which is actually kind of cool. And the double card tray. And next up is going to be an online configuration tool, so you can kind of plan your print. But we've got the LED rails, we've got blank remixables, we've got various kinds of some tavern-themed stuff. You have squares. People are trying to figure out how to do hex. So it would be we could put up hex and run it right on there and have it be our battle mat for BattleTech, while being able to keep all the books and everything down below. So that's a Kickstarter. It's by who's it by? I have to go look for the name. StageTop is what they're calling it. Come on, scroll on. Gut Shot Games. Okay then. And this is only their second Kickstarter. Let's go see what else they did. Oh, it was canceled. It was a different type. Oh, it was interesting. It was a tabletop game. It's actually your miniature is a toy that stores everything you need to play. Okay, I'd have to go look at the rules and see what happened with that. It's a nice concept. So their second one is this 3D printable version of the gaming table, which also lets you raise a coffee table up to a more convenient height for gaming, and a dining room table for wargaming. So, I mean, it has the height thing going for it. So that's my particular Kickstarter of note. I have other ones that are back, but that's the one that stands out at the moment. Yeah. Do I need to send you the link to it?
No.
They've already got $94,000, 1,800 backers, and there's 12 days to go. So there's some time to jump on this bandwagon.
The Kickstarter that I am waiting for, being on the bandwagon of BattleTech, the Mercenary expansion, is coming out around Adepticon time, I believe. I'm already on the list waiting for it, but they're going to have another big Kickstarter that launches for that. And then I'm sure, there's a couple companies that I have an eyeball on that I usually back a lot of their stuff. I think Cool Mini just launched a new Kickstarter. Not big news because, that's damn near a monthly thing now. I mean, it really is. It's kind of sad that it's like once a month. Instead of going to your local game shop getting pre-orders for the newest game coming out from a company, it's now everybody gets to go to Kickstarter and pre-order their copy of the game, completely cutting out the initial folks there. And I think that's one of the saddest thing in our industry right now is that LGSs are getting cut out. Kickstarters are great for a lot of stuff, but there are definitely people who are abusing the system. Definitely not what the system was designed for. Literally what they're doing is was against the rules. Kickstarter.
It's against the intent. There's big companies that are using it just for the advertising.
No, it was the original rules of Kickstarter. Literally what Cool Mini is doing is against the original rules. The rules have since then been updated because who can turn away from those that yummy multi-million-dollar products?
Multi-million-dollar no accountability fee.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they get their 6 or 8% or whatever it is of the $6 or $7 million that these Kickstarters drag in. So they're like, we need to rewrite the rules, guys. We need to make it where, and I honestly believe that the rules were rewritten specifically because of Cool Mini. Like no other company specifically, yeah. Nobody else was doing it. Nobody else was using it as a straight up pre-order system until they did. And when they did, they were having these $7, $8, $9 million Kickstarters back to back. You know, that's when,
that's what I'm saying. Is they're using it for advertising.
No, they're not even using it for advertising. They're legitimately.
Reaper Miniatures does the same thing.
Okay. Yes and no. Reaper actually has. Okay, so the big difference I've noticed, because I've backed both, I've backed Cool Mini and I've backed Reaper, is that Cool Mini has, well, that's right, it's not even Cool Mini anymore, it's CMON, it's just straight up CMON. CMON already has almost everything, if not everything, done by the time they put their Kickstarter live. Reaper does not. Now, I don't think it's a great business model. I've actually argued why using Kickstarter as a selling tool is freaking stupid and it's non-sustainable, because the moment that they have a couple bad games, honestly, CMON, couple bad games, they could go belly up with this business model because they don't have the... basically, in a nutshell, they sell their games super cheap at the beginning, Kickstarter exclusives, yada, yada, yada. And they kind of murder the distribution tier. You know, that you don't see a lot of Cool Mini games. The only ones you see are the super, super popular ones. The rest of them are kind of just like, eh. And also, Cool Mini has an interesting reputation for not supporting games, unless it's like Arcadia. Is it? Yeah. Unless it's like Arcadia Quest, or was it Zombie?
Well, I have the World of Smog. And I got that because I really liked the gameplay of the original game. Mm-hmm. They did a second Kickstarter with expansions, and then it looks like they just dropped it. I doubt there will be anything else World of Smog.
That's very... You're lucky you got a second game. There's been a couple games that I've seen that looked amazing, and they got one set. The only thing that you're guaranteed is Zombicide and Arcadia Quest, which, in all honesty... It's fair. They have two incredibly popular games, and they have licensing. I don't play Zombicide. I have Zombicide Ninja Turtles. Why? Because they're Ninja Turtles. I bought them because I like the minis. I like the minis, and they're Ninja Turtle minis. So I really dug them, so I picked them up. And you never know. I might play Zombicide, and I'll have my Ninja Turtles that I can play in Zombicide. And there's actually been several big crossovers into Zombicide, and that's cool. It's something that you can bring things into, whatever. But I'm leery to pick up something that's not Zombicide or not Arcadia Quest, because it's like, hey, cool, I'm going to get one thing and then it's going to go away and die. Just like,
and then there's a lot of pushback about those Kickstarter exclusives.
Well,
people get really annoyed at them. I don't like Kickstarter exclusives personally. I don't think it's fair that the rest of the games, or you have to go to a convention and hope that they're giving stuff out. I don't think it's fair that you lose out on aspects of a game simply because you bought it retail.
I like Kickstarter exclusive poses versus Kickstarter exclusive minis.
Kickstarter exclusive dice or alternate poses or things like that. Those are fine.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there are ways that you can have. I bought a Kickstarter exclusive boss monster, and it has everything that the original boss monster does. The Kickstarter exclusivity was a special design box. The box looked different, and it contained the monster bosses in hologram. The regular ones were there.
As long as it's playable without the exclusives, but a number of companies get a little too carried away, in my opinion, and offer true exclusives that they are then say, well, we'll give away at conventions or this kind of thing, and make them more rares than exclusives, which I don't think is fair to the people that would really want to buy, to the majority of people who are buying their game.
Oh, and one company that I absolutely love, and I own most, if not all, of the product for, is Dungeons and Doggos by Russ.
I have 2 of their boxes.
Right.
I have 2 of their sets.
So they actually offer true exclusives. There are certain, they actually had a licensed miniature that was in their original box set that you just absolutely cannot get. Like,
I think I have that.
It was licensed for the initial print run, so they can't even do an alternate sculpt.
I'll have to when I dig out those, I'll have to look. But I think I have the first box set from Kickstarter, which has that exclusive mini.
It does, and they do offer. And I don't like that. Now I back them, so I have them. And I had a buddy of mine who gave me one of the original Kickstarters because they backed it for multiple copies. So there's that. I was able to get it because I actually really wanted it, and I was able to get one, luckily. But the same problem is, I straight up asked Russ. Like I said, he's been on the podcast, and he's a really cool guy, and I've reached out to him. And since then, Dungeons & Doggos has actually been picked up by Steamforged Games, the company that Russ works for. I
need to go back and get the data cards for the dogs, because I don't know did they ever finish all the data cards for the doggos?
They should have. Like I said, they did them, and then there was this big pause, and I didn't go back because I still haven't marked it complete because I don't have all the data cards for essentially the character sheets for the doggos. I thought that was actually contained. They should. I can also, like I said, I can reach out to their creator and ask as well. But Steamforged has picked up, but they're guilty of it. They're guilty of offering exclusive Kickstarter stuff, and they're actually very guilty of it. And it's nice to own them, but I would be totally cool with owning an exclusive pose versus just an exclusive character.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to move on here to the 40K boarding actions game.
Is that the one that's taking over for, it's like Necromunda, but it's
it's kind of Necromunda. The first book that's out, it's the Arcs of Omen, are the narrative books, and it's Abaddon is the first one. So, mental note: I have to call Atomic and make sure that they order one for me. There's some controversy here because it uses very specific terrain in its scenarios. So here's the Arcs of Omen Abaddon book for $60, which is, pretty standard Games Workshop. There's the terrain set that you need for it for $210. Or you can get the two of them together for $270. And what they're doing is kind of, because it's spaceship, it's different terrain.
It's Space Hulk meets the way it was explained to me is it's Space Hulk meets Necromunda.
And in some respects, they're kind of repurposing Kill Team terrain.
Oh, no. You're right. It's Space Hulk meets Kill Team, not Necromunda.
Yeah.
I mixed up my two games.
So if you have Kill Team, the terrain is kind of there. But people are... This is where there's a bit of a split online. There's people who are rightly saying the book is very specific to the terrain, so that they want you to pay another $200 for this specific terrain if you don't already have the Kill Team stuff. And then there's the other half, which is saying, well, just make it.
Oh.
And they're calling this, it's not, they use the gatekeeping, but not in that respect. It's just they're calling it more of a hurdle to get into the gaming. More of a barrier to entry, I think is how they phrased it, which is true. You buy the book and you get all happy about it, and then you look and it wants the specific terrain that, coincidentally, here you can buy it for $200.
Well, let's address the elephant in the room. Is all of these small skirmish games that GW or Games Workshop ever releases has one goal and one goal only, and that is to funnel you into one of their core games.
Yes.
Space Hulk gives you a decent size starting Blood Angels. Same with Kill Team. You start off by buying a single squad. You slowly start adapting that squad, and then you buy more characters. And boom! Next thing you know, you've got a 1,500 point force, and you can play regular 40K.
This one actually is a narrative, but you need the 40K rulebook to play it.
Right.
So you still also need the 40K rulebook.
It has all of these games.
Like I say, the split online is I agree with both sides, to believe it or not, on this one. One, which is the frustration of that barrier to entry of specific terrain being laid out in the scenario objectives. Very specific, which matches up to the terrain that they're selling.
Yeah, but
or that comes. I mean, it's not like 40K where you just have objectives.
But here's the thing. So, who says that does it look prettier if you have the very specific
You see, now
terrain?
you're getting to the other side of the room, which is saying, well, just make something.
Yeah, you can easily. I mean, I remember playing 40K when we were using soda pop cans and random food we would take our fast food containers,
here, Larry.
wash them out, and we'd toss them out there. And hey, look, that's a hill, or hey, that's a bunker, or it's people have fallen in love, and this is actually, I would say, people in the role play realm are even more guilty of this. People have fallen in love with the entire ideal of having this perfect terrain for everything. And it's not bad. It's not bad. There's nothing that looks better than going and playing a game on this beautiful table with beautiful terrain. With a lot, I've seen terrain tables that had LED lights built into them, with smoke machines, with moving parts, the entire 9 yards. It's brilliant. But I have literally also played on a table that had sheets of paper with lines drawn on it, and it's like, this is a wall. And same with D&D. I am lost on the concept of going out and buying, either playing on a virtual tabletop. That I don't know if I can wrap my mind around that, or buying all this beautiful terrain. I am Mind's Eye Theater. I am a preacher of Mind's Eye Theater. We're sitting there. If I cannot tell a story good enough where you are engaged. Now, a little bit different when it comes to combat and stuff, having a good hex base or square vis-a-vis marker mat where you can draw out and position stuff where you know where stuff is. That's awesome. You can also do it with graph paper. But that type of stuff, that's awesome. It makes things a little bit easier. But nowadays, where Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games are beginning to feel like tabletop war games more than they are freaking role-playing games. It's like a narrative.
People who build the TVs into their gaming table so that they can project up a map.
Nowadays, it's cheap enough to do that.
And that's the thing. I mean, people do that. And I didn't. I specifically only have a flat table for that. I have a battle mat, and I have Crayola water erasable water wash markers. And then I am guilty of having all this wonderful dungeon terrain. I'm going to do caverns. I like having terrain when it matters. If we're just tromping along and it doesn't matter what's going on around, if I don't have to know where things are in relation to each other, I'm not going to sit and draw it out or build it up. It's just not worth my time. I will describe it, imagine it. Go, guys. I will draw the lines on the battle mat to show what the rooms look like, kind of thing. But the other thing is, the reason that people are frustrated is they don't belong to a gaming club that has 20 years worth of terrain built so they can just go grab it off the shelf and use it. They get the book, they get excited to play, and then they find out that things are specific to something that they don't have. It's specific enough that that's what the problem is that the terrain objectives are specific to the kill team terrain, or the boarding actions terrain set, kind of whichever one you want to go with. It isn't that it's meant to be used with this, which is a great reuse of terrain you already own. Love that. But if you don't own it, and they're specifically referencing things that are part of that terrain, then it becomes a whole different story. And people can be rightly upset that it's a barrier to entry to new players. Because then the thought of sitting down and building stuff, all of a sudden your game gets all weird, and your mindset about it gets all weird. Personally, like I say, I got the 3D printer. I can do what I want. I've got the Orc Fort printed out from Kill Team, mostly because I just want to paint it. It's all covered in support material right now, but I printed it mostly because I want to paint it. And I have some other obstacles in this and that. But yeah, the Arcs of Omen boarding actions, that's the latest thing with 40K right now, is that. And like I say, I need to get Atomic, the local game store, to order the book for me, or to make sure that they hold one aside for me so I can order it there. Yes, I know I can probably get a discount on Amazon. I pay the local game store tax. But that's the thing, and there's, like I say, there's that bit of controversy around it because of the terrain. It sounds like a silly thing to have a controversy, but there's a controversy.
You know,
When have gamers not had silly controversies?
Here's the deal. I honestly think it's a worthy one. For the people who really want the tables to look good, I totally get it. And yeah, it should be cheaper or easier to get into it. There should be rules that are covered in there, because I remember the White Dwarfs, and I'm sure you do too, where they told you how to take everyday objects and make terrain or make even models out of them.
There's the one other thing that was a big standout as to why this was a thing. It's a different table size than 40K. That was the other thing, is Boarding Actions has a different table size.
What is it? 4 foot by 4 foot?
I'd have to look. Hold on.
I think Kill Team uses a different table size too. I don't think it uses 4 by 6 either.
I think it does. I mean, I don't know how much it's going to say.
Not a big deal. It's not if you happen to fall upon it, but it's whatever. In all honesty,
740 millimeters by 607 millimeters. We'd have to do math.
Awesome. Yeah, so people will complain regardless, and it's one of those. But honestly, I think of all the different controversies and debates that I've heard come up about Games Workshop, that one actually might be one of the best ones to have a debate over. I could seriously see people having a good discussion. Not only wrong, I don't think everyone will have a good discussion. There's probably going to be a lot of QQing and whining on both sides about it. But a good discussion could be had about this particular topic, as why it's bad that they make you and what you can do to work around.
I think I might have an answer. Hold on. Let me get back down here. No, it's actually a different size than Kill Team. Because Kill Team is on about a 22 by 30 inch.
I don't understand why
57 by 76 centimeters.
I don't understand why there's a controversy that it's a different size. We used to play 40K on different size tables. Like, my preferred table size is 8 by 4. Most people like 6 by 4. So I don't know why that's a controversy. Oh, boo-hoo, it's a different size table. Of all things, that's probably the one that makes me go,
people have,
what?
Especially in game clubs, and people have purchased the specific mats for the scenarios in 40K.
Oh my God, do you know how hard it is, how easy it is to mask off the certain area for the mats? Trust me.
But then the terrain doesn't match. Like I say, people it's this whole thing. I'm just telling you what's out there.
Do I need to contact my friend Matt, who makes Matt by Mars, and see if he'll make some special freaking terrain
I'm just saying the controversy is out there, and I can see both sides of it.
I can see where people are complaining about needing this expensive, or air quotes, needing this expensive terrain, versus
feeling that the game is funneling them towards having to have the expensive
versus oh, wham, it's on a different size board than the other two 40K games that I play. That one is ridiculous. Sorry if that's something that truly bothers you, but no, there's no sympathy on that one.
If it's true that they have objectives that are tied to the terrain sets that they sell, that's kind of not great.
It's simple. I've got a really simple solution to that. Go spend it's about $100 and get more than enough stuff to play full games of BattleTech and join us, because Catalyst is actually doing some really big stuff. They've revitalized the game, and the models actually look really good. I went in there with a mold line remover, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to find any mold lines until I actually prime these, aren't I? It's one of those type of models, which is good and bad. But
like I said, that was just a controversy I wanted to bring up, just because it's out there.
Oh, speaking of controversies, in a nutshell, OGL 1.1 is dead. Long live the OGL. They gave a non-apology, which is about as much as we could expect from them, and they are working on what is being dubbed 1.2, and they're emphasizing that this one is a true draft because they try to the explanation that 1.1 was a draft, but it was a draft that was literally followed along with a contract to certain people. So, i.e., it wasn't a draft; it was the final legal language. They've killed it. They've said that there will be no fee of any type, and there will be no language that basically they get to control your property, which was one of the points that Marie made that she did not like. So the 1.2 is on its way. There is a draft of it. In all honesty, I am not going to cover it until it's more of a finalized product. If it even ever gets finalized, because right now the bridges are freaking burning. Paizo, or Pazio, or however you pronounce it, took a hard stance and released their own. They got together with the lawyer who wrote the original OGL. Apparently, the original OGL was supposed to have irrevocable in the language, or that was the intention, and it was either removed or omitted. And they have what is called the ORC, which is the Open Role Gaming Creative License, the ORC license. And it is one of the first things is this license is irrevocable.
Because that's something that's still missing from 1.2 is there Hasbro WotC is not putting in irrevocable.
See what people want them to do.
They're dancing around it like crazy and trying to use other language. And now the actual lawyers that are part of the gaming community been weighing in.
The American Bar Association, the ABA themselves actually weighed in on this. And apparently they like playing Cthulhu. Who would have guessed?
Because you can have you can make lawyers the good guys in that one.
Right. That was actually the reason, too. That was actually the American Bar Association weighed in on this entire thing. It's like, holy crap, how much of a hornet nest did you kick, Hasbro?
Hasbro completely forgot. Here's a couple things that came out of the discussions of this one, is that the people at the top of Hasbro come from the world of video games, not role-play games. They don't understand that their customer base has a lot, I'm not going to say majority, but has a lot of people who obsessively read the rule books for fun and try and figure out every single loophole in them that they can exploit.
Like 90% of our hobby is reading fucking rule books.
Pretty much. And but video gamers aren't that way. Because it's just not it's not the same audience at all. So if someone didn't point out to them that as soon as they release this, people are going to be scouring everything right down to the punctuation.
It wasn't a big document, so it wasn't like it was really hard to go through all of it.
It wasn't, but I don't think they understood just how bad it was going to come out and how fast. Because, like I say, we read rule books for fun. We look for every single way. How long does it take to get a wish spell worked out in game? Let's face it.
No, I get it. I totally get it. And you know what most of us want?
That was the best. Yeah, the best thing that's what I heard, though, is that they were coming from a video gamer's mindset where they can just, people just scroll by the agreement and click yes. That, if you look at how that is, that makes it a reasonable mindset on them, is people aren't going to read it. And then you have everyone else who says, do you have any clue about the people that buy your product?
Yeah, there's reasons they call us rule lawyers. So,
yeah.
Okay, so several things was actually released with the entire Paizo thing. Paizo was actually in the process of getting ready to sue Hasbro if they tried to revoke the OGL 1.0A, which is the original OGL with one minor addition. They were actually getting ready to sue, even though they don't even use it anymore. Now, the OGL 1.0A is in their books, but they said, and it makes sense, and this is the truth, that it's in their books so people can use their system, new version 2, to create modules for it. Awesome. Just the intentions of the OGL. Wizards released it, but other companies have been using it to release product as well that is not connected directly to Wizards. So what they did was they hired the original lawyer that wrote the OGL to come up with the ORC, as it's being called, and in the first sentence it says irrevocable. So once this comes out, it is going to be irrevocable. If they try to, they're going to be in breach. They can be sued. And they said that if we ever try to do anything with the ORC, feel free to. We deserve it. And it's basically the OGL, but better. It's the original OGL, not the new one, but the original 1.0, but better. It has much cleaner and clearer language. And as of the last time I looked, Kobold Press, Paizo, Ronin, and several other major companies have all signed on for it. And what their plans is, Paizo is paying for the writing, paying for the publication, but they are going to turn it over to a nonprofit organization, something like the Linux Foundation, that is used to handling open source licenses, that has nothing in the game. Nothing in the game at all. Nobody who makes money off of this project will control the ORC. It will be completely its own little deal. They might turn it over to the Linux Foundation and be like, hey, treat this just like you do the open source licensing. EFF. Yeah. So, yes, exactly. They're looking for a nonprofit that's used to handling this stuff, and they're going to give it over. So nobody who has a hand in this will actually be able to have anything to do with the ORC, and it's going to be spelled out specifically irrevocable. So,
going back to one of the comments we had early on was using too many acronyms. EFF is the Electronic Frontier Foundation.
Yes,
defending digital privacy, free speech. When you go to their website, the first thing that's up there, the featured update is beware the gifts of dragons.
Right. So
they're in on this as well.
Then, like I said before, the ORC is the Open Role-Playing Game Creative License. It's basically the OGL under a different name, but it's cleaner. A lot of players are like, hey, if you're going to write a new OGL, we want an OGL 1.0B with the term irrevocable added instead of being implied. But yeah, a lot of people were in the process of getting ready to sue the hell out of them.
I can't find, which is really annoying me, the post on this one, which was really informative, because this goes into the SRD, which is the System Reference Document, which is also very important because that tells people what they can use from Hasbro WotC's game, from Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, that's another big thing is that it's not the OGL, it's the SRD.
That's coming up. And they're going through things. And one of the things, I wish I could find the post. And I feel really bad because I didn't know we would be recording, or I would have kept it up on my screen.
I told you it was on we were recording on the 21st.
Yeah, well, you said we were going to try. And all of a sudden I get this, like 9:30 going, hey, let's record. I'm like, wait, what? Okay.
My bad. I forgot all your appointments that you have tomorrow. Oh, wait.
I was watching Golden Girls. Anyway, but from what I remember of it, the races, are listed as things that will be in the SRD, but none of the classes will be.
Yeah, but a lot of the classes
wizard,
are...
barbarian, fighter.
Yeah, but those are not trademarkable, so it's not like you can't put them in your own damn book anyways. But
the same wording, you have to rewrite them so that they're not similar to what's in the official book, the D&D 1.5, whatever we want to call it, the Hasbro WotC property. So you have to rewrite the classes.
Or people get smart and they start doing stuff under the ORC instead. I am totally the OGL 1.1, I didn't see it as being as big a bad a monster as it was. Apparently I was wrong. I'll fully admit that. Apparently nobody agreed with my take on it, which is fine. But I am a full follower of the ORC. It is plain. There's no SRD involved in it. It's a straight up, this is what it is. If you sign on it.
But the thing is, those are two separate things. The SRD and the Open Gaming License are two specifically different things.
Right.
One is a license. one is content.
Right. I totally get that. But and
the content is getting buried. The SRD, the system reference document, the situation with that is getting buried under all the very righteous brouhaha over the open gaming license.
But last time they screwed around, okay, so when 4th edition came out, we had the OGL 1.0A, and they screwed around with the SRD and essentially neutered it, like made it where there was nothing in it. So you still had the open gaming license where you could produce games and everything else, but you had nothing you could reference that was D&D. And we saw what happened to 4th edition. Like, if the SRD was there and people would have been able to make product for it and all of that jazz, maybe 4th edition wouldn't have literally fallen on its head. And that's one thing Hasbro really needs to look at too, is that, okay, even if they're not gamers and they're straight business people, look at your numbers of what happened the last time you screwed around with your SRD/OGL back in 4th edition. The system literally tanked. No one made any product for it. It had to be scrapped and written off, and they had to rush 5th edition out as quickly as possible as oh crap, this is what's going on. And yes, a lot of people didn't like the rules of 4th edition. They found them a little on the simplistic sake, but
I will say this about 4th edition. If they'd called it anything but Dungeons and Dragons, I think it would have been a reasonable success.
I think that if they would have had decent support, it could have been a reasonable success, but there was no support for it. Nobody wrote for 4th edition at all, except for Wizards, and it caused the system to fail, on top of gameplay bugs and issues and the simplistic rules and all that jazz. There's more than one reason, but honestly, I think the big part of the reason I think 3rd edition, and we're both 3rd edition fanboys, or fan people, I think honestly,
I'm a fanboy.
One of the biggest reasons 3rd edition was a booming success, and part of the reason 5th edition is a booming success, is the fact that everybody can write for it, and everybody does write for it. 3rd edition, oh my God, how many different modules were sold? AEG was pushing them. Green Ronin was pushing tons of them. Kobold Press, tons of these. That's why that's where Green Ronin and Kobold Press came from. Is where they got their grow up, was because they were writing a whole bunch of different products for 3rd edition. That's where Paizo came from. I mean, that's literally what they were doing, is they were writing 3rd edition content. They stopped producing the magazine. Something legal happened there with Wizards or whatever. And they were like, hey, we can't do it, so we're going to actually start publishing books instead with their monthly adventures. And that's how that company... It created a ton of companies out there, and it made 3rd edition super, super popular. Super big. It was at that point that Dungeons and Dragons started actually getting more of a mainstream bite, and not in a negative way, because it was everywhere. And then 4th edition, they neutered the SRD where no one could do anything with it. It died. And then when they opened it back up with a more robust SRD,
the 5 SRD is not robust.
I thought it was, well, it has to be more robust than the 4th one.
It's more robust than 4, but it is not robust at all. I have an app on my tablet which has the SRDs on them. I have one for 3.5. Woohoo! And I have one for 5. Yeah, okay. And the SRD for 5 is terrible. There's no monsters in it.
Oh, there's like a beholder, I think.
Not a beholder. Beholder's not in the SRD. There's no monsters.
I thought there was one monster.
There's like one monster, but Beholder, Mind Flayer, and there's, I think, 2 other monsters that are truly trademarked. Those names are. That's why you'll see things like Eye Beast in Face Cat, whatever the actual name is for that one. So there's something like 4 actual monsters that are IP'd. There might be more now, but there were always those 4 from the start. And Reaper has a mini that you can't get anymore because it was sculpted too close to the Monster Manual version.
I think it's a beholder, isn't it?
Astral Mauler.
The what?
It's the Astral Mauler. They had to have that one redone. But
What
the good
what
news,
is that equivalent to in D&D?
I don't know. That's the actual name of it in D&D,
Oh,
I believe. I don't know what they
I
call
thought
it.
I thought they had a beholder monster that was like really, really close to what was in the book too.
It's a conjunctivative beast or something like that. It's an eye beast. You can have the models that are really similar, but you can't use the names. You can't use Mind Flayer. That is IP'd. But some good news here. The gentleman, Miguel, I can't remember his last name. It begins with a Z. He's the one, and he was on a number of the news sites because he got permission. He was sculpting all the monsters from the monster manual and putting them up for free for people to download and print. And he got the waiver from WotC to do that as long as he doesn't sell them. And he's been continuing that. So every time they put a module out, he makes the monsters for it for you to download, all the characters. He now has permission from Pathfinder and
Zavala. Miguel Zavala.
I want to say, it's Cobalt. What's the Green Cobalt?
No, that's Green Ronin and Cobalt Press.
Green Ronin. They have given him permission to do their characters.
Spiffy.
Under the same thing, that's why for him, if you ever want to really look for his stuff, either you subscribe to his Patreon, which I highly recommend, and you get the whole back catalog, or you can download them for free, mostly off of Shapeways. That's where the official ones are. But he also now has 2 more companies where he's allowed to make their official miniatures.
Well, yeah, Green Ronin and Cobalt Press were like the first 2 people that signed on with Paizo as well.
Yeah, but the fact that they're letting this guy who's done pretty much the entire monster manual and all the modules that have come out for 5 and sculpted all those minis, now he's allowed to use all the other ones to sculpt all he wants to.
Huh. That's awesome.
Yeah. Isn't that, and the fact that he just gives them away, that's great. I still have to print out the Goose Hydra, though, which is absolutely terrifying.
What?
Oh, have you not seen the Goose?
Nope, I don't even want to. Nope. It's
got
No,
stats.
I don't want to see it.
Geese,
okay. A single goose is already terrifying enough. I do not need to see the stats for a freaking Goose Hydra. That is
okay. I'm going to be printing one and painting it for you now.
Great. That's just absolutely freaking terrifying.
Have you seen the 5 dragons in a trench coat?
Yes, actually, I do think I've seen that one.
It's not Tiamat in a trench coat.
3 kobolds in a trench coat.
There is the 3 kobolds in a trench coat, but someone did the 5 dragons. This really isn't Tiamat in a trench coat.
Right. So yeah, that's what's been going on.
Larry's getting the Goose Hydra.
What in the? So I watch Linus Tech Tips. I think I've mentioned him a few times. So
you're really fond of him.
I really am. I really enjoy it. They actually keep me pretty up to date on what's technical it's coming out, and they do it in a reasonable form factor, and they're quite witty about it for the most part. It helps me keep up to date on what nerdy stuff is coming out, such as, what's the big graphics card, if there's any issues, what's the next big processor. Because I have a bad problem of if I drop tech completely and then I decide to build a new computer, I then have to spend a month researching everything to figure out, who, what, where, when, and why, and all this other jazz. And so it's just easier to have an easy to bite onto chunk that keeps me informed. And like I said, I find them funny. So they have a podcast. It's called The WAN Show that goes every Saturday, I think. And it's Linus and Luke. Linus, of course, is the head of LMG, which is Linus Media Group. He was originally the guy in front of the camera, and there was maybe 2 other people there, and now they're this 150 person strong, multifaceted business organization that's just like media empire-ish almost. It's crazy. Then Luke is way up in their company. He's one of the original members and runs a little sub company called Floatplane, which is a quasi. It's like if Patreon and YouTube got together and had a baby, it would be Floatplane. You have to subscribe to each individual person that you watch on Floatplane, But by subscribing to, I think it's only like $3 or $5 to sub to someone on Float Plane, and you automatically get 4K. Their audio is like completely uncompressed. Like it's YouTube in the sense of it's a streaming video / audio, but the audio is so much better. Like they have several musicians that are on there because the audio comes through like almost totally uncompressed. It's a pretty nice little setup. But anyways, Luke had to have jaw surgery, and so he couldn't talk. But they had they've been recording the show for like 2.5 years solid with only those two, with no fill-ins. I think actually I remember the last episode that they had where they actually had to someone step in and fill in for the one of the two. So they didn't want to break the streak. And I found it absolutely hilarious. So YouTube has this new system that they're in the process of looking over because it might not have been implemented properly, where in a nutshell, if you curse within the first, I've heard 8 seconds, I've heard 15 seconds, other than hell and damn, it will demonetize your video and also put a basically kind of a hit on your channel type deal, where you might lose your monetization totally, which makes me scared to go look at my dashboard. And demonetized. But so what they did was they were addressing this episode. So they put a warning at the front like, hey, there's going to be a lot of cursing. Normally they bleep themselves out. Hey, if you normally have kids that listen to this with you, this is not the episode to watch with them. Go ahead and don't watch this episode. So there was no bleeping, and they were very us in that episode. They cursed a lot, but it was funny as hell because Linus came out as a Jay, even with the long-haired wig and everything, yellow jacket, the entire 9 yards, and Luke came out as Silent Bob because he couldn't talk. So they role-played Jay and Silent Bob for the cursing episode, which I found to be absolutely perfect for anybody who's ever watched Jay and Silent Bob and any of those films by Kevin Smith, because they're quite colorful when it comes to the language that's used within them. Snooty Boochies. And I say this as I'm looking at my Silent Bob coffee mug that I have sitting on my desk, that if I would turn around would actually have Jay on the other side.
That little barb of, if you've ever watched any of those, that was like jabbing me, by the way, in case anyone didn't quite catch that.
Totally. Like I am going to, I would say I have to tie Marie down, but I just have to put something moderately heavy in her lap and she's not getting up, and sit down and watch all 3 John Wick movies with her.
You're just going to drag me over and plunk middle on me, aren't you?
I could. No, Dom. I had to ensure that you are not going to get up. I had to plop the chunk.
Yeah, he'll just pin me under a cat.
Yes, I have my 30-pound chunky orange cat. His name's Dom, but I've started calling him Garfield because Jim Davis lives 20 miles down the road. So there's a list, and this list is sadly getting much longer. All of the Clerks movies to include the other View Askew-averse movies, which they're the number. I am so fucking disappointed. She was telling me the movies that she hasn't seen, and I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? And you call yourself a nerd? What the hell? I'm not even supposed to be here today. See, if you watch the movie, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. But yeah, so we are going to have the re-education of Marie, and we're going to do a Clerks screening day, and then we're going to do a John Wick screening day. And here's the real thing that makes me super sad about the entire John Wick thing is, I was like, I get it. You might not like action porn or Keanu Reeves, but it's real. She's like, oh, I love Keanu Reeves in action porn. And then I'm like, why the fuck have you watching this? Because it's some of the best action porn that's come out in forever. And it's Keanu Reeves. Come on.
He doesn't like my answer to that, which is I haven't set aside the time to do it.
Oh, don't even get me on that one. I haven't set aside the time for it. I don't
see
do
what I mean?
anything.
He doesn't like my answer to
I don't do it. I haven't set the time, but she can watch Golden Girls, but no, not John Wick.
Actually, that was just playing in the background while I was doing something else. But
always it's just playing in the background. I had to find time where I can sit down and just watch it. You're
Pretty much,
really kind of failing at this entire "I'm retired" thing. I'm just pointing that out there. I haven't had time to watch it. You're retired. Yeah, and what do you mean? I'm gonna have 14 days off where I can't use my hands, and I'm already like, I'm gonna be watching fucking movies nonstop because my goal is to be done with all 15 seasons of Supernatural, and this is where Marie pipes in.
I have those on my server for you.
Actually, I own them all. This is where...
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch those.
Yep. I can't say much because I haven't watched them either, and they are on my watch list. But I'm actually halfway through the first season. I have been watching it, and usually I'll be doing something on my computer. On one monitor, I'll have like Supernatural playing, and then I'll be working on something else. Because I totally embrace my ADHD, and I know that there is no fact... It takes a very, very special movie for me to sit there and watch the movie without doing something else. Like, I have to be fully engaged. Like, the new Avatar movie actually kept me really engaged between the visuals and everything else and all that. I was able to watch it without doing too much else. But usually I'm one of those people that will be tinkering around on their phone while watching a movie, just because, or I'll be editing something, or I'll be working on a miniature, and that's just because I have to have more than one source of stimuli, because if I don't, I'll wander into my own head.
Well,
so
we won't talk about the fact that Larry didn't even invite me to go see Avatar 2.
We went and watched it specifically in 3D, and I know that you can't watch it in 3D, so that's why I didn't invite you.
I know. I'm teasing you because it's not something I would have politely declined anyway. I'm just kind of making fun of the fact I wasn't even asked. We both know that it was not something that I would be joining you on.
No, so. Well, I also know that you have mentioned on numerous occasions that you just absolutely cannot do 3D movies because they give you migraines and whatnot. And I specifically watched that movie in 3D because that's the only way to watch it to watch Avatar. Yeah. So,
and I like I say, that's just poking you with a pin on that one.
And I'm just saying that I know my friend good enough to know that she wouldn't have been able to watch it anyway. So, if you would have expressed interest in watching it, I would go watch a 2D showing with you.
And that would have been a second viewing for you because you would have gone and seen it in 3D first, which I fully understand.
I still want to go see it in IMAX. I didn't get to see it in IMAX because it was sold out. No, it's in IMAX 3D. I want to see it in IMAX 3D before it goes out.
Okay, now here's the question. With all this brouhaha going on, are you going to go see the D&D movie? Because I saw the preview for it, and it actually looks like they might have done a good job with it.
I do, and here's the thing. They say that they want to make D&D $1 billion business, and here is my thoughts on it. If you want to make D&D $1 billion business, it's not about the game itself. The game, you're not going to be able to monetize it to a system or to a level where you're going to make $1 billion off of it. You're just not. That's not it. You cannot push out enough solid and good product over the course of a year to make $1 billion off of it. But here's something else that Netflix didn't do. Netflix didn't make $1 billion off of subscribers just because of Stranger Things. Damn near guarantee it. Also, damn near guarantee all these other people, all these other franchises that are being prepared by places like Paramount Plus or Netflix or any of these stuff. They did make $1 billion off of it. Let me tell you where they did make their money. Licensing. They license the absolute hell out of it. You can find I saw freaking, and I shit you not, I saw Stranger Things waffles. Actual Stranger Things Eggo waffles. Makes total sense if you've seen the show, which I'm sure Marie's like, why Eggos at this point? But it's Marie. Just assume that she hasn't seen anything at this point. You're probably right. So they branded the shit out of it. And that's what Dungeons and Dragons needs to do. They need to push good content out. And just like Magic, why have we not had a Magic movie? Why do we not have a Magic cartoon? Why do we not have the novels again? There's just so much stuff that I don't understand about like Magic. They want to make more money with Magic, and I'm like, you literally have 20 years of story and backlog that has been meticulously tracked and working with. We are right now in the process of wrapping up a storyline in Magic that started 30 years ago. Why do we not have a movie? Why do we not have a cartoon? Why do we not have a live action show? The Witcher does. The Witcher show is absolutely freaking super popular. So there's ways that they can monetize it without screwing the game. There's ways they can get more people to subscribe to D&D Beyond. Definitely not what happened. They lost, if any rumors are to be believed, 40 or 60,000 subscribers left. Canceled their subscriptions. Games have been moved off. There's people, hell, Joe is talking about, hey, what can I do to convert my game over to Pathfinder 2 version 2? In all honesty, it'd probably be better off backtracking it and putting it to Pathfinder 1.0 because that's more in line with what 5th edition is. But there's ways that you can monetize it without screwing with the game. If you give us a great virtual tabletop thing that has features that we love and everything, people will subscribe to it. We're not going to subscribe for $30 a month, which, if the rumor is to be believed, is what the price point that they wanted was $30 a month. No, absolutely not, Hasbro. You're a fool to think that you were going to pay that much for it. Not for what you have there now. It would have to improve a lot to get up to $30 a month. And honestly, nah, not going to happen. We'll go back to, we'll go dust off our tri-corner hats with the big skull and crossbone emblems on them before we do that. And also you have to remember,
we'll go freebooter.
Right. Yeah, but it boils down to, you have so many different things that you can do to monetize D&D, not fucking around with the game, not messing around with the OGL, not pissing off the player base. You know what we'd love to see? I don't know, Saturday morning cartoons that don't suck. Don't hate on me. The old D&D cartoons are nostalgic and everything else, but let's face it, folks, they were hokey as shit. Give us a good, solid D&D game. Give us start putting out D&D video games again. Like, Dark Alliances 2 back in the day with Dristward and everything. It was based in Forgotten Realms. That game was amazing. I bought the reboot of it, the remaster. Why? Because the game was fun, and it's still fun. Bring us. There's more than one way of making money off your IP, and if you think that a whole bunch of dice slingers are going to generate you $1 billion in profit, not going to happen. Magic is a completely different beast. It's collectible. It has a financial value. Guess what doesn't? D&D books. You buy D&D books, they're pretty much done. And
what's funny is the things that do have collectible value aren't sold by Hasbro WotC. Well, I take that back. There are a few things that they put out that do get collectible value, but they're not the books.
And when the books finally start getting value, it's like my 3rd edition books, or some of them, are starting to get value. And it's not the ones you would think. It's not the popular ones. It's the ones that no one bought. Like the Dragonomicon is fairly pricey because no one bought the damn thing. The Book
of Vile Deeds is one of those ones that's really up there too. And
is
Liber
it?
Mortis. Yeah,
I thought it was Exalted Deeds, the good one, because the bad one was bought, but the good one wasn't.
I can't. I'd have to look them up. I have them both.
Same.
I have a whole shelf. I have a whole shelf that's nothing but 3.5.
Also, same. Like I said, me and Marie are both like 3.5 fanboys. I think last time I checked, I had over 90% of the 3 books.
The 5e players that really start enjoying it, but then maturing, get a little frustrated with the simplicity of it. And that's when people like us come to the 3.5 side. Here, let me show you this version. And we bring them back in time and show them 3.5.
I think Paizo's shooting themselves in the foot. I get it. They wanted their own system, version 2. That's fine. But they should still be putting out product for version 1, which is essentially 3.75, because it's still out there. Hell, Wizards of the Coast just released the basic 3 books not that long ago for 3.5. They re-released them. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So you could buy the core 3 books again, and they were just printed like last year. I was like, that's actually kind of neat, because...
What was this?
The 3.5 books. They released the 3.5 books, the core 3, the Monster Manual, DMG, and the Player's Handbook. They re-released them.
Were those the collectible editions? The boxed set?
It was a box set.
With the forward from Vin Diesel?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah, I know which one you're talking about. It was a while ago that one came out, actually.
Really?
But,
I thought it was only like a year or two ago.
Oh, no, it's been longer than that.
Oh, but regardless, they are still putting out the 3.5 stuff, and I think Paizo's kind of shooting themselves in the foot and messing with a money stream by not releasing more 3.75. But hey, they've signed on to this new ORC and the OGL. It's not like someone who's enterprising and everything else can't produce more Pathfinder 1.0 products. They totally could.
Raging Swan Press will put. I'm a patron of them. I have a whole bunch of their stuff. They put out 4 versions of most of their materials. They put out 5. They put out Pathfinder 2. They put out Pathfinder 1, and they put out System Neutral. So they have 4 versions of their material that are so they have the System Neutral, and I generally buy System Neutral. But then they have them more focused on the versions that are out there. So there are still third-party content people who are writing for Pathfinder 1. So the third parties are going to keep Pathfinder 1 alive, which is funny because the people that built 3.5 are also propping up 3.75, which is Pathfinder 1. So the same people that have done it are continuing to do so. And I think I don't know if Skirmisher does it. Hold on, let me get the name of this because I can never pronounce it right. I'm huge on item generators. Ezekiel Games also does that, where they have them for... There's also another gaming system that they support, but there's a number of these third parties that started out a while ago are still providing for Pathfinder 1. So they're still benefiting from that 3.5 rollover that they got, that boost. So it's not that... I mean, Paizo can stop making stuff all they want to. The third-party people are going to continue to make it because they know people still play it. And it's not that much work for them to convert them between the systems.
It's one of the... All I know is, like, it's one of those deals where we're looking at this and we talk about it because it's news that people want to hear. But honestly, unless something breaks, this probably be the last time we talk about the OGL. But yeah. I'll tell you what, man, I've not seen... I really wish that Magic players would have done what the D&D players did with some of the shenanigans that they've done the last year with Magic. Because I'll tell you what...
The problem is that Magic is a truly closed ecosystem.
It is.
That's definitely a walled garden. I mean, it's not like someone else can make...
It's multiple...
legit Magic cards.
It's multiple gardens. That's the thing. And they don't talk with each other. It's multiple gardens.
But the thing is no one besides Hasbro WotC can make Magic cards.
Right, but there are competitors out there. The problem
There's competitors, but you can't use them.
Well, you can go and play their game instead, which is actually mildly what's happening. There's a game called Flesh and Blood. I've looked at it. Looks kind of fun. I'm not going to lie. It looks like a mix of several older games that I used to play. It looks a lot like Highlander, the old card game, which was super fun actually. But yeah, its reason is a dead card game. But anyways, honestly, I straight up say, because there was the year before, there was like 3 new card games that kind of hit the market and made a splash. It was Flesh and Blood, which is fab. There was MetaZoo, and there was a couple others that people were making. They made little waves. Pretty much all of them have died. MetaZoo is there, but it's like, is it really? It's kind of a meme card game. Yeah, it's fun to get the cards, but is it truly played? But Flesh and Blood is there.
No.
And this is all impacts from Wizards doing stuff that the players don't like, and some of the players moving off to these other card games.
Now, I've mentioned this to you, and you've kind of laughed at me. I have not gotten into the cardboard crack. I have very luckily avoided cardboard crack throughout my entire gaming career, I want to say. The one that caught my attention way back was the one with the ships, where you could actually punch out and build the ships.
I can't remember the name of the game, but that was actually, it was a WizKids product.
It was a WizKids product.
It was produced, was it Black Sail?
Something like that. And then, it had a lot of cards and a lot of expansions.
No, it was a fun looking game. I had friends who played it. It looked fun.
And occasionally I go on eBay and I search for it to see what's out there. But like so many of these games, unless you've got other people playing it, it's just throwing money down a hole.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I am completely psyched by the fact that there are 3 people at Atomic who play Reaper Warlord. Finding Reaper Warlord players is incredibly rare. Finding 3 of them is just beyond the odds. And they all play different, they have 3 different armies, and I have 4 armies, so I have 1 army that they don't have. So that's the one I'm going to be working on. But I'm very excited and hopefully be able to meet up with some of these people to play Reaper Warlord. Again, it's a game I enjoy, but without players, it just kind of sits there and gathers dust.
I'm sure I'll end up getting dragged into this one too.
I have armies. You can use them. Complain about playing war games, Larry. Come on.
I need time.
You need time. Larry, you're the one who actually does need time because your time is very constrained. Let's face it. I don't have that excuse anymore because it was a legit reason for me not to do a lot of things. And today, for those I didn't mention, I might have mentioned, when I had my house rewired, the house fought back, by the way. The further they went in this process, the house fought them. I had them save me all the wire that they pulled out, that they could pull out, and then all the leftover wire that they did from the wiring. Why? Because this is really good copper wire. I'm not giving away a whole bunch of copper wire when I do these hobbies. I have a lifetime supply of copper wire.
It really does.
I took... and then some. But taking off the 82-year-old insulation off the wire, that's going to wait until I can do that outside. So I was taking the contractor, before it snows, because it's supposed to snow tonight, I hauled all the bags and everything out into my big shed. And this is after giving Larry a piece of wire to fix something in his house. But I did finally haul all that out, and then promptly took up the space with the chairs that were brought in with my new table. But it's sitting out there waiting for me, and I'll be able to go and strip off the old insulation. I'm going to leave the Romex wire. I've got ground wire, which is a lot thicker. So I've got a lot of really nice copper wire. And so Larry, I think both you and I are set for life on copper wire for hobby stuff.
That is true. I saw the big pile. I love how she's like, and I gave Larry some.
I gave you an 8-inch piece.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's sitting in my pocket of my coat.
Well, you said you needed it for a project, and here.
No, it's not a project. I guess you could say it's a project.
It's a home repair. It's a home repair project, which is what the wire's for. But what's sitting in one of those bags, and I really want to dig into it, I still had the original landline box on my house. It wasn't connected to anything outside the house. It was just this big pile of cable. So I have the metal box. And all the low voltage wiring that was there, that thing was heavy. I can't wait to dig this out and look at it and see if it's something I can use to build with, or if it's something that's saleable, because all the light fixtures that I pulled out are saleable. But I'm looking at going, what can I make this into? I'm finally back at a point where I can look at things and make them into things and make my own terrain the old-fashioned way. Not 3D printed, but actually sit there with styrofoam and bits and pieces of stuff and wire and everything else and just see what I can build. what kind of packing materials that I have, or this thing that came, the bottle cap kind of stuff, as you were talking about. I'm looking forward to being able to do that again because it's freaking fun to make this stuff. I don't know if you've heard of, before we get into this one, there's one last little thing that I didn't know about, which I find funny because I haven't been keeping up on Horus Heresy or any of the newer lore in a lot of the 40K world. I'm still reading Horus Heresy. I can only read so much Grimdark before I have to stop. I did not know that there was a cloned Fulgrim Primarch out there in the lore. And what I find funny is that he's known as Clone Grim, I think is what they're calling him now. So yeah, he was cloned, and he resides with Trazyn in the Infinite. He was traded. So there's a whole list of what's going on potentially with the Primarchs in the current. I don't think it's in the Horus Heresy game. I think they're bringing them back forward into 40K world is what it's sounding like, either lore-wise or game-wise. But there's some really interesting things on where they think the Primarchs are. But yeah, I just saw Clone Grim, and I just had to laugh about that. Because the question is, well, did they get the gene seed before the heresy or after the heresy? Because that makes a difference. I just find that funny for my own reasons. I like the Primarchs for the most part, but I get tired of reading about them.
Honestly, what really wears on me the most about that is the fact that they're written in so many different styles. I'll get used to one, and then the next book, it's like a completely different author with a completely different take on it. And it's like, oh my God, it's draining after a while. It's like, I really wish that it was a single author.
I just had one that made me tired because I didn't realize, because what they do is then they'll occasionally throw in, without really saying it, that it's more a collection of short stories than it is part of the lore.
Right. I've seen the short stories, and sometimes. And
I just went through one of those, and I'm really pleased that I was able to pick up stuff from earlier books. So the names matched up, situations matched up. I understood what had happened before. I don't even know how far I am into the series at this point. I don't know what number book I'm on, to be perfectly honest. But I think I'm on the last of the Grimdarks that I can read for now, because it gets to a point where I just can't take it anymore.
I can't take this anymore.
I need to read something that's not grimdark. Don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying it because it builds things up. I've written a blog post on my feelings about Space Marines. I don't think you really want me going off on my tangents on Space Marines. I could do my own little section and just record one day and just on Space Marines. But we won't go there right now. It's just one of those cases. I just think it's kind of interesting that it seems like they're bringing back the Primarchs.
I mean, one's already back, and the demon Primarchs are back.
Well, it isn't, and they're bringing back more of them. They're thinking about where they are, kind of thing. Sanguinus is in like 3 different places. His soul is in 3 different places. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of weird. I was looking for the little thing where someone had them listed out. So they're bringing back the Primarchs, which is, yeah, okay. And I found someone who's doing the funniest cartoons right now. And I'd have to send you one because it's got a Custodes in it that's just, it's beautiful. Because it's along the lines of Space Marines on the frontier that don't realize that things are ramping up again, that the Primarchs are back. And a Custodes touches down and essentially slings a cooler full of gene seed at one of the 2 that are sitting there. And it's just got the little line that says, "Brother, I am hit," as it knocks him over. And he's like, "Here's gene seed, this and that," talking to him. And it's like, "Don't fuck up." And he's doing, then as the Custodes leave, he's doing the point of, "I'm looking at you." The other Space Marine's just like, "What?" And what makes it is that down in the corner, as the cartoon goes on, you see one of the Alpha Legion going up and like plugging into their data console and then sneaking away again. I'll have to send you that one. And he's got some other funny ones. It's like, who do you think would win? A whole maelstrom of chaos universe, one Stone Age psychic boy. And it has a cartoon of essentially a Stone Age emperor with the leaves in his hair and a dead bird around his neck. I mean, the guy's doing some really fun little stuff with it. I like finding this stuff. I'm not a fanboy for Warhammer. I will never be a fanboy for Warhammer. There are things about the game and the lore that I just don't like. I know that they're never going to tell us what happened to the two Primarchs that no one talks about. That, I think, is an actual top-down decision, is they're going to leave that one completely open to speculation. I don't think we'll ever find out what happened to the two lost Primarchs. Because they had legions, and now they're not spoken of.
Yeah, that's why Ultramarines were so big, is that Ultramarines ended up absorbing a good portion of...
That I don't know that that's anywhere in the lore that it happened. I haven't read it yet. And I've been dealing with... they just did Calth, so there's been a lot of the stuff in Ultramar and the whole thing. But I haven't seen anything in the 30K lore. Now, of course, if any of the 40K people are here, of course, feel free to jump in and tell me where I'm missing it. But I have not seen anything how their legions were absorbed, and I don't know that they could be because of gene seed. They would have had the old legions gene seed.
Right. Man, I swear that it would make sense. That it is official. Well, the Ultramarines is always the pure gene seed. I don't know if I want to call it pure, but the most stable, the most generic, it is the baseline for gene seed.
Well, you've got your Primarchs, which are the fine English tailoring of gene engineering. And then you have the Custodes, which were supposed to be mass produced, but they turned out to be just more like high-end stuff. Then we ended up with Space Marines, which are the rubber stamps of genetic engineering.
Facts.
So that's what it comes down to. And like I said, I did a whole blog post. No, I didn't do a blog post on my feelings on Space Marines. I should do that. I touched on some of the aspects of it on my blog post about the 40K series and where I think they should cast Harry Cavill, because everyone's going about the casting and how I think it should be done, but no one ever listens to me. No one reads my blog anyways. I just put stuff out there and hope. It's like, yeah, I'm going to get slammed for this one. Oh, look, 2 people read my blog last week.
All you need is for it to go viral on Reddit one time. Trust me, been there.
You know what? I don't know that it's going to. My biggest hits lately have been making your own contrast paints, to be honest. Because I went through a lot of trial and error experiments on how to do it. And I know that Goobertown did it as well. But I also did it as well. I did colors as well. I'm using as well. I'm sorry. I'll stop using those 2 words. What I went into was making my own colors based on acrylic artist inks and what went into that, what worked and what didn't. Because I'm not afraid to put in there saying, I did this and politely we'll say it didn't work. This is what happened. Here's what happened when I did this. So if this is what you want, that's great. This is not what I wanted. You have a friend who has a blog, a website actually. And one thing that they don't do is show their failures.
Nah, that's bad. You need to show your failures.
The reason for that is for the longest time for that website, it made sense not to show the failures. They're very nice detailed tutorials on how to do things. And for years now, because I helped him get his website back, I've been hammering on him to show failures. Show what didn't work. Show the process that went into the 12 things you tried before you found the one that worked. Show people that it isn't always,
show people that experimenting is not a bad thing.
And that even though you have these great tutorials, it came from trial and error. And he admits that he has trouble with showing the failures. He's used to showing the perfect results that came out of it. So I'll still harp on him for that one. I'm also harping on him about something else, and I'm losing that battle horribly because he's overthinking it.
Okay.
But, okay, what?
It is 2 a.m.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and we are nearing the 3-hour mark, and I have lots of stuff to do tomorrow. So this is where we need to start wrapping things up.
Okay. I will leave off the one other thing of interest that I found that was
write it in your notebook, and we can talk about it on the next.
I might actually try it by then and have more information on it.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, life is good.
Yeah, plus I'm actually getting tired.
You're not allowed to get tired.
Wish I never did. That'd be great. All the hours and all the days. All right, so everyone, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, like I said, modelsworkshoppodcast@gmail.com. You can also join our painting group, and it's Models Workshop, Miniatures, and whatever. Just search Models Workshop. It'll show up. And you also find us over at facebook.com/The Models Workshop. We also have a wholly underutilized and completely unupdated website as of late at models-workshop.com. We really need to work on that and get a product that's really swanky. Side note, I bought gin24.com back. The person who was trying to resell it to me for a super amount finally gave up and let it go back to the registrar. So I swooped in and bought it again. Ha ha, bastard. I have patience, and my blog did not get that many people. Suck it, nerd. So hopefully before too long, I will also not be posting on Gin24 because I suck at posting, even on Facebook. And that's the easiest way to post anything is on Facebook. So, yeah. The best time I had was TikTok because they were very short videos and I could just spontaneously shoot them and I got no views. So it was very disappointing. But yeah, that's how you get a hold of us and talks at us and everything. One of these days we probably should get the Discord back up, but whatever. So what else what would you like to add, Marie?
Like I say, I'll have some other stuff hopefully by next one that have to do with world building and mapping. So hopefully I'll have more for that. I should have my new world building cards from the story engine. I should have my world engine. So I will hopefully have that one for you.
Sweet.
And yeah, I can hope so. And I'm sending you some of those comics, by the way.
Sweet.
So that's what I've got going on, and I'm hoping to do some of that and unpack. Unpacking is a huge thing for me right now.
Yes, you do need to unpack. You are definitely...
Now I can, and I'm looking forward to it. And I actually did put some stuff in the shed. So
The shed.
You don't want to know what's in the shed. You're lucky that you guys had to leave, or I would have had you haul something out of the shed.
That was a reference from a movie called The Seven, probably something else you haven't watched.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
Yeah, just because you've seen memes. I don't believe it. I don't think you watched.
No, actually, I did watch Seven.
Oh, it's 20 years old, so it's old enough for you to watch.
Shush you.
Mm-hmm. And
just shush you.
And
oh, I suppose, Larry, what does the dragon say?
Roar.